Arrested someone accused of intentionally setting several small fires in Big Cottonwood Canyon. This happened in the Mount Olympus Wilderness area. Salt Lake County Sheriff Rosie Rivera tells KSL it took them hours to reach the suspect because of how rough the terrain is in this area.
We don't know what he was doing up here, but we do know he lit several small fires. They smoldered out, so they did not spread, but this was a very dangerous situation.
Rivera says a big reason this didn't turn out worse is because a National Guard helicopter was already in the area when someone stopped and called 911. She says those two factors likely prevented a larger wildfire. Another Utah city is delaying the watering season. Highland is asking residents to wait and not water their lawns until Mother's Day. Water usage is being monitored, but residents won't have to worry about metered billing until 2027. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Justice Department now asking a federal appeals court to vacate some of the most serious convictions after the January 6th riot. The court is being asked to vacate the convictions of seditious conspiracy against members of the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys.
The 12 people we're talking about had not been previously covered by President Trump when on day one of his second term, he pardoned more than 1,500 suspects who had been prosecuted in the riot, including more than 600 defendants charged with assaulting, resisting, or interfering with law enforcement.
ABC News Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 202 points to 48,333. Coming up, it's going to be a lot warmer today than it was yesterday. KSL weather's next. Plus, we've got a few slow spots to update you on the drive. KSL News Time, 9:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Is your financial advisor managing your risk or just a spreadsheet? Hi, I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. Many financial advisors rely on target date funds, which are one-size-fits-all portfolios that don't know your name, your family, or your goals. And that passive management can leave you dangerously exposed. At Trajan, we look at the whole picture, not just the stocks everyone else buys, but the private market opportunities most advisors ignore. And as fiduciaries, we build a strategy around you, coordinating your investments, tax strategy, and estate into one cohesive plan. Your financial life deserves more than just a generic portfolio. Real planning isn't a stack of statements. It's the confidence of knowing where your income will come from for the next 30 years. Good enough isn't good enough for your family. It's time for a change. Schedule your complimentary consultation today.
Call Trajan today at 801-207-9900. That's 801-207-9900.
Advisory services through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Private equity investments require accreditation. Other services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures at TrajanWealth.com.
I'm here with Monty from Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake, an authorized independent dealer. So, Monty, I wonder if you know someone like this. He's the ultimate DIY guy. Restores classic cars, builds his own deck, and even smokes his own brisket.
Sounds like a talented guy.
He is, but get this, his other weekend hobby is troubleshooting his water softener. He's always down there resetting the timer or fiddling with the circuit board.
See, Doug, that's where I draw the line. Smoking a brisket is a great weekend project.
Yeah.
Fixing an electric water softener is just a chore.
Exactly. He thinks he's saved money by buying the bargain brand, but he's paying for it with his Saturdays.
That's the Connecticut difference. Our systems are premium because they are non-electric and fully automated. No computers to fry, no timers to reset. We install it and you get back to the hobbies you actually enjoy.
If you want soft water, do what I did and leave that to Connecticut. It runs on water power, not willpower. Learn more at softwaterutah.com. That's softwaterutah.com.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other, so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio. So we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
Well, what other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, sounds like Fisher Investments has everything we need.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. Let's go to the traffic center. Cormac Bone.
Well, we still have heavy delays, but it's actually southbound I-15 where we're seeing the worst of it, starting near the north interchange with I-215 and reaching down toward Warm Springs Road. That's where it's especially dense. And then again, southbound I-15 slow at the south interchange down into Midvale. And then northbound I-15 delays are still in place from the point of the mountain up to Bangerter Highway, and again slow from 3300 south up to about 13th south. And southbound I-215's west belt approaching I-80 in that construction zone, also slow and go. Update your water with Culligan with top quality systems for homes and businesses, softeners, filtration, bottle-free coolers, and bottled water delivery. Local experts, trusted solutions. Visit CulliganSLC.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, sunny with some clouds throughout the day, highs in the upper 60s, but winds will cool down the valley. A cold front will then work its way into Utah tomorrow. We'll see some rain and maybe a few flurries in the morning. In the afternoon, we'll see snow start to come down. Right now, though, 50 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office have taken a man into custody accused of intentionally setting several small fires in Big Cottonwood Canyon. This is in the Mount Olympus primitive area, recreation area. Adam Small has more details on that.
Authorities say the suspect started multiple fires in the Mount Olympus wilderness area yesterday afternoon, and this is a very rough, remote area, so it actually took police hours to get to the suspect.
We don't know what he was doing up here, but we do know he lit several small fires. They smoldered out, so they did not spread, but this was a very dangerous situation.
Salt Lake County Sheriff Rosie Rivera tells KSL a big reason this did not turn out worse is because a National Guard helicopter was already in the area and got eyes on the suspect quickly right after a bystander stopped to call 911. She said this could have easily turned into a larger wildfire if not for that caller and chopper. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
I think I said primitive area, wilderness area.
I knew what you meant.
Had my national parks messed up here.
Oh, no, I knew what you meant. So I was watching this story unfold a little bit yesterday, and of course my first question is, well, why would somebody do that? I'm going to make a guess that they wanted the fires to take off and go big.
Yeah, so I worked on the arson task force when I was at the district attorney's office in the early 90s, and just we studied this a lot. I even took some classes in sort of the mindset of the arsonist, and really, if I were to break it down into 3 or 4 categories, there's the person who burns something for insurance reasons. You've got a building or a car that you can't afford, or you're upside down in, and you've got significant insurance, so you cause a fire which you can get out of your problem with, or you do it to hurt someone. You can burn a house with somebody inside it, or a place that can cause harm to someone. Or there's a third category of people who just like fires. They like to see what it causes. They like to see what it can do. This person, if in fact they have the right person in custody, may have just had this mindset of, hey, let's see what I can do. Let's see what I can burn. Unfortunately for him, and very fortunately for us in Salt Lake County here, is that the ground up there is still pretty wet, and it looks like from what was happening, I think he was being actually tracked by some National Guard helicopters and others. He was trying to light these fires, but none of them would take. Yeah. Bad news for him is every one he started is a separate offense. So he could have 5 or 6 arson charges, but the ground up there is still, fortunately, miraculously, still very wet. But that area, we've had fires up in the Mount Olympus area, and when they start up there, it's a big problem. You end up having to bring helicopters in, or water, and all kinds of resources.
Well, we heard from Adam Small that it took hours to get up there to be able to arrest this suspect. What I thought was intriguing, and I saw this yesterday as news stories kind of kept updating, is that they did have eyes in the air, and they had them from the very beginning. I think the National Guard was maybe doing an exercise or something in that area, and they spotted this guy, and they were able to track him and tell law enforcement where to go.
So that's a hike I do with my family at least once a year, and it's not an easy one. And so, I mean, these National Guardsmen and women probably do it in their sleep, but they get up there and they can start hiking, but it would take a while depending how high he was.
Yeah.
It could take an hour or two to get to the top there. So especially if he's gotten off the trail is a pretty straightforward path to the top. But if you get off of that and into the weeds where he probably was, it could have been a while. But the thing is, if there's a chopper in the air watching him, there's eyes on him. It's just a matter of time before individuals come. And that had to be a really intense sort of chase even for the law enforcement officers, because they don't know who they're looking for, what they're going to find when they find him. And he's got to know when the helicopter's overhead that somebody's watching him. So that had to be an interesting chase and something that was unfortunate for law enforcement to have to go through, to be honest with you. But it appears that the individual, and I think I know who he is because I've seen the jail booking sheet, but I don't think we can disclose that at this point. It seems like the individual is safely in custody now. The district attorney's office will take a hard look at that. If it is wilderness area, I was thinking it might be federal land. I don't know that the feds would take much of an interest in this, but they could charge it as a federal arson crime. Not that that would make a huge difference because, the feds of the state would both treat it similarly as an arson. And the feds would be obviously more interested if it was an arson that involved property like a dwelling or someone was hurt or put at risk.
Well, certainly we know wildfires can take off and consume dwellings and people, but what are the consequences that come with acts of arson like this one?
So yeah, it's a felony, and like you just said, if it involves a dwelling or where a person could be, it could be a very serious felony. It's almost like an attempted murder.
Uh-huh.
It could carry like a first-degree felony, but a simple arson, I guess simple's not the best word, but it's still a felony. It could carry up to 15 years in prison. It's a serious felony. And like I said, every time he lit a match in a different area, they could charge a separate offense, a separate criminal offense for every one of those. I'm not saying he's going to do 15, 30, 45 years in prison, no matter, depending on how many charges they bring. It would also appear to me that someone who does this has some mental health issues, has some problems. It would depend a lot on his prior criminal history. If he's got a history of arson, then he would certainly be taken into custody for some time. He may be there for a while now. He may be evaluated. But this is something that, especially this year, with the incredibly low water that we've had and the incredibly high heat, that this could potentially cause devastating problems. Like you say,
Sure.
even if it creeps down the hill a little
Yeah.
bit, you've got houses down there, you've got other things down there where people could get hurt. So I think the authorities are going to take this seriously. I appreciate what Sheriff Rosie Rivera said about it, which is, hey, we're going after this. And people need to be very aware. Even if you're starting a campfire or something like that, and you're negligent or careless in putting it out, you could be responsible for an arson under our law.
I know all last year and well into the fall months, we talked about the fires in Utah, and the majority of them were human caused.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but that's what happens. I mean,
Some accidental,
every
of
once
course.
every once in a while you get like a lightning strike or something like that. But even accidental. Let's say you're the typical one is the person that's got their chains hanging off their car and they spark, or they toss a cigarette out of the car or something like that. It's you're responsible for that, because that takes an accident into the negligent or reckless category, which would make a person responsible. Now, those are hard to prove, because even sometimes the arsonist doesn't know they started the fire. They drove off and, boy, there's a fire behind me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, do they then get the label of arsonist, or it was an accidental fire set?
If they get charged and they get convicted, then they are, under the law, we could call them an arsonist. Anyway, be careful, everyone. It's that time of year, and it's going to be a bad year for fires. Let's hope that they're not human-caused.
So just so our listeners know, we have reached out to Sheriff Rosie Rivera to learn more, and we'll keep you updated.
Yeah,
okay.
And we'll follow that as well as he gets booked into jail and whatnot.
Okay. When President Joe Biden was in office, Republicans were concerned about his mental abilities. You remember those conversations?
Oh, yeah.
Well, now Democrats are pushing to have President Trump evaluated, and they're proposing a formal panel via legislation that could trigger the 25th Amendment. So we're going to talk about that when we come back after this break.
Spring has arrived, and that means it's time for one of J&J Garden Center's most anticipated events of the year, Tomato Frenzy. Right now at J&J Garden Center in Layton, you can pick up large, healthy tomato plants for just $2.99 each. That's half off the regular price and one of the best garden deals of the season. Whether you're planting a few favorites for fresh summer salads or filling your garden with rows of tomatoes, Tomato Frenzy is the perfect time to stock up. J&J's greenhouses are full of strong, ready-to-plant varieties, and the J&J team is always there to help you choose the right plants for your garden and growing space. While you're there, don't forget to grab everything you need to give your tomatoes their best start, including J&J's premium topsoil, garden supplies, and planting essentials. But don't wait too long. Tomato Frenzy only runs through April 25th. Visit J&J Garden Center in Layton and start growing your best tomato harvest yet. J&J Garden Center. Country grown to your home.
This is Jeff Stout with Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple. Let's talk conventional versus FHA loans. Both offer cash-out refinances up to 80% loan-to-value or LTV, so which is best for you? It's kind of like Uber and Lyft. I always compare the two before booking a ride. Conventional loans don't have mortgage insurance under 80% LTV. However, the rates and costs get higher with lower credit scores, cash out, and high LTVs. FHA loans always have mortgage insurance, but the rates are lower, they don't penalize you for cash out and high LTV loans, and they allow for higher debt-to-income ratios. FHA often results in lower payment even with mortgage insurance. We can analyze your situation within minutes. Call us today. Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple, 801-264-9494. That's 264-9494. Or on the web at finkmcgregor.com. NMLS 289115.
1877 Cards for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1877 Cards for Kids. Donate your card today.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Ready to get rid of that old car? Donate it to Cars for Kids. Call 877 Cars for Kids to speak to a friendly live agent. Donation is super easy, and your car can be picked up as soon as tomorrow. Go to carsforkids.org now or call 877 Cars for Kids to donate your car today.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids.
Did you know you can donate real estate too? Go to carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K.
Snapshot from Progressive wasn't created for just anybody. Oh no, we made it for you. Smooth accelerators. When that light turns green, you're off. Like a warm knife through firm butter. Going from 0 to the speed limit in an appropriate amount of time. Sure, your car has horsepower, but your horses prance around as silky smooth as your right foot. Fancy Prancerton. With Snapshot, safe drivers like you get personalized rates based on your driving habits. Sign up today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Snapshot not available in California or from all agents.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Dylan Gunther of the Utah Mammoth. Scoring goals is what I do. Driving a BMW from BMW of Utah, that's how I roll. Proud to be a Utahn, drive elevated.
911, tell me exactly what happened.
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
And I said, Josh, where are you? You need to get home.
And her husband will never be held accountable.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but
and you want to think about it for a couple of days?
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast Cold.
Then he starts making phone calls to Susan's phone.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back.
It's the deepest of deep dives into this tragic tale of abuse.
Where was Josh when Susan disappeared?
I don't know. Of one mother's desperate attempt to escape.
This is me, covering all my bases.
Help prevent it from happening again.
Our focus has and continues to be finding Susan.
Listen and learn by following Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
and expanded inside sources.
Well, some recent posts on President Trump's Truth Social, including some pictures and some other things he's posted, have caused some congressional Democrats so much concern that they are actually trying to create a panel that would evaluate the president's physical and mental fitness to determine whether or not they could enact the 25th Amendment. A bill was introduced Tuesday to establish a commission on presidential capacity to discharge the powers and duties of the office and for other purposes.
So one of the key reasons that they stated that they were doing this is their concern over his post last week saying a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. And then, of course, you know that it did not happen, but it caused so much backlash that in a recent post of him as Jesus, that you had even people like Candace Owens and also on the other side, AOC, calling for President Trump to be removed via the 25th Amendment.
Yeah, and he continues to post even now. He's fighting with the Pope. He's fighting with...
well, this morning he posted another picture of him with Jesus, saying he thought it was great.
Yeah, so I don't know, what that constitutes, but I would say this. Whatever you want to say about him, the 25th Amendment, which we just did a little research on, was enacted in 1967 after the 1963 assassination of John F. Kennedy to kind of help us understand the transition of power. And the first paragraph of the 25th Amendment just says, in the case of removal of the president from office or his death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. Now, that's been the law of this country for 250 years, but I guess it was codified in a constitutional amendment in case there was any concern. So,
what wasn't clear before the JFK assassination was the line of succession.
Right.
Who would become, it seemed that it was kind of murky, and I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so now it's clear by the 25th Amendment. That was ratified in 1967, 4 years later, so it's part of the Constitution. But so he certainly isn't going to leave office by death or resignation. But so then we get to the removal process. And the removal process is much more difficult than people imagine because it's not just both houses have to vote. They have to clear a hurdle before they even get there, which is the vice president and a majority of they call it the principal officers of the executive department. In other words, his cabinet. I'm just reading the Constitution. They vote and they say, we think that he's got problems, and they file what they call a written declaration that he's unable to discharge his powers. And then it goes to the president of pro tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, and they have a vote. And both of those bodies need to pass it by 2/3.
And that's not going to happen, right? Or as I understand it, this bill that's been introduced would establish the commission under the, quote, other body of Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. So under that bill, a 17-member commission would be created, including physicians and former high-ranking officials. And then, if requested by Congress, the commission shall carry out a medical examination of the president to determine whether the president is mentally or physically unable to discharge the powers and duties of the office.
So that basically usurps the part of this that it required the cabinet approval.
Yeah, because you're not going to get the cabinet.
Right. So yes, you're right. It does, or such other body as Congress may by law provide. So they can submit this. I'm glad you caught that. They could submit this bill and say, okay, we're creating a commission.
Right.
We don't think that the cabinet's going to do what the Constitution allows. Let's do that, and they can make a written declaration that he's unable to discharge his powers. That then goes to the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, and then they would have the vote then.
It seems unlikely to pass the bill. I don't think the Democrats have the votes in Congress at this point to be able to pass that bill. But let me ask you this question. How is this process different than impeachment? I guess you don't have to show high crimes and misdemeanors.
Right. So this impeachment, right, exactly. So impeachment deals with high crimes and misdemeanors. The president has done something illegally, done something inappropriate. This deals with their fitness.
Okay.
This deals with the language that says that he is unable to carry out his duties. The language is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. So it can be based on other than criminal activity, on mental health. You know, we talked, I think at the outset you said, President Biden's mental health was certainly at issue at some time during the end of his presidency and while he was running, and that could have brought
certainly Republicans were saying, hey, this is a big deal and he shouldn't be in office.
So Democrats are saying the same thing, that there's so much going on with Trump right now that maybe his mental health needs to be evaluated. I mean, it's unfortunate that we're having this conversation, and it's unfortunate on a couple levels. One, that we even have to, but two, the fact that there is virtually no chance that they will get enough Republicans together to get this done. Even after midterms, we're not going to have a 2/3 Democrat Congress or Senate or both.
But we will have majority.
We may have a majority in both of those houses, which could be worth something. But unless you get a significant number of those Republicans to switch gears, and I'll say this also, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this: the succession goes to the vice president. I mean, is J.D. Vance,
right,
in terms of what's happening in the world right now, a better candidate than Donald J. Trump? I think to a lot of people, he's seen as very similar. I'm not saying he's crazy or anything. I'm not saying
that's
Trump
why
is
he
either.
was chosen, right,
Right.
to support the president's agenda.
So I don't know that the country goes in any sort of a different direction with Vance over Trump. So I don't know. This may be just eyewash at this point, and I don't know that it's going to go very far. But it's certainly it started as a resolution. Now it purports to be a bill. They're going to need some help to get it passed.
So it's interesting. Again, just looking more at the genesis of the 25th Amendment. And I'm looking at some information about vice presidential vacancies before this passed, and it said that before the 25th Amendment, a vice presidential vacancy would continue until a new vice president took office at the start of the next presidential term. So there were actually several times back in history before 1967 where the vice presidential spot was left vacant for several years.
Yeah, so I'm going to get in trouble for this too because of my history. But when Nixon's vice president was Spiro Agnew,
yeah,
and he had his own issues,
yeah,
and I think he was either impeached or resigned.
He resigned
before
for corruption. I
right,
think before
Nixon. Right.
Yeah, before Nixon. And so the very first time that the 25th Amendment was actually used was
right.
his replacement when
right.
Nixon nominated Gerald Ford.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And then it was like a year later where Gerald Ford became the president because Nixon resigned.
And Ford said, "I don't want to be president." You know,
yeah,
he was happy to be the vice president. He ended up actually doing a very good job. But yeah, I mean, the country has things in place, and I love our Constitution. I mean, I just love what it does and what it stands for, and the fact that it is always the ultimate fallback position. We don't look at laws. We don't look at Supreme Court decisions. When something of this significance occurs in our country, the best place to start is if there is something written in the Constitution, because that's the black letter in terms of what we do in this country.
Yeah, and it's also interesting that the president, this is not related to fitness in office necessarily, but the president can voluntarily transfer the power of the presidency to the vice president if they're unable to discharge their duties. So think about like when Ronald Reagan was shot and was undergoing surgery, he was able to transfer the powers and duties of the president to the vice president. So he didn't become the president, right? But because he was under anesthesia and unconscious, right, he wasn't able to perform those duties. I think the same thing happens on the state level here, where the governor can do that if there's like a medical procedure. It's not just travel. Yeah, but you transfer it to the lieutenant governor.
That makes sense. You have to have a transfer of with people, especially getting older, accidents, things that can happen. You don't want there to be a blank space, a part where we're not sure who's in charge. You like to have a natural succession.
Yeah, and I guess I just never really thought about it. I just had made the assumption that it was always that way, and I was not correct. It wasn't until the 25th Amendment passed in my lifetime that we had a clear succession, a clear plan of succession.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know that this is going to go anywhere, but it's interesting that this is what's happening. We're also hearing that Trump is telling us that the Iranian war is close to being over. However, at the same time, more troops are being sent to the Middle East, and even though Trump is saying it could be resolved within the next few days. When we come back, we're going to have a correspondent with us from News Nation who can talk about what's going on in Iran. There's so much going on, and it's a moving target. And tomorrow we may have the exact same conversation with a completely different response to what's going on. So stay with us. We're going to talk about what's happening in Iran. Is the war almost over? What's going on with the addition of troops and boats and ships in that area? We'll be right back.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour: Salt Lake residents are speaking up for the community education program. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
The Salt Lake City School Board has announced the program will close this summer after 54 years. Residents showed up at yesterday's school board meeting to speak in support of the program.
And I've discussed this with other teachers and students in this program, and they all feel the same way. They're heartbroken and angry, and they want this to continue.
There are currently 70 classes offered this spring, serving around 700 students. The board says supporting the classes is outside their mission, and they need to instead use the resources for the K-12 students. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
KSL's top national story this hour is Wall Street reacting to a new hope for a peace deal with Iran. ABC News chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reports.
Iran's president posting, "No power can force us to surrender." The Washington Post reporting thousands more U.S. troops are being sent to the region to squeeze Iran further. And CENTCOM saying the U.S. naval blockade of Iran has completely halted economic trade going into and out of Iran via the sea. But the war and the squeeze on this vital waterway impacting the U.S. economy too, with high gas prices. And now the International Monetary Fund warning of the danger of global recession.
President Trump saying the war is, quote, close to over. GOP leaders in the Senate say they are putting plans in place in case Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito decides to retire. Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley told reporters his top choices to fill a vacancy would be Texas Senator Ted Cruz or Utah Senator Mike Lee. Alito has been dealing with health concerns. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says if Alito retires before the midterm election, they would act quickly to get a new justice confirmed. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 200 points today to 48,335. Coming up, a warmer day today, but it is just before storms work their way in. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
This is Nate Orchard from Advanced Window Products. When you live in Utah, your windows do a lot more than let the light in. They protect your home from freezing winters, blazing summers, and everything in between. That's why Advanced Window Products builds every window for your local climate. No middleman, no out-of-state delays, just factory direct quality, custom made for your home. Imagine a quieter home, a warmer home, a cooler home. Our high-efficiency vinyl windows are engineered to lower your energy bills and boost your comfort all year round. And installation is done by our own certified in-house crews, never subcontractors. That's why Utah homeowners give us 5-star reviews. Right now, take advantage of our anniversary sale. For a limited time, get $2,500 off when you buy 10 or more windows. Call 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. For 40 years, Advanced Window Products has been the name Utah trusts for custom replacement windows and sliding glass doors. Advanced Window Products, built here, installed here, trusted here. Call 801-850-9100 for that $2,500 off, or visit us at advancedwindows.com to schedule your free in-home estimate.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime.
Our entry-level data plans start at just $20 a month. And for a limited time, switch and get your second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com or a store near you and get your second month free today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional details.
Let's be honest. The National Symphony may not be in his future, but he wanted to try violin. So you said yes because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more about keeping your kids safe in your vehicle at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show him you love him. Keep him safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. Here's Cormac Bone.
Delays have really eased up on most of I-15. Still a little slow northbound I-15 just after Point of the Mountain approaching Bangerter Highway. And this is due to a crash just after 146 South. They're blocking the left shoulder there. It looks like they're behind some construction cones. Otherwise, though, your delays are in Lehigh, eastbound Pioneer Crossing, seeing some heavy slow traffic as you try to get onto I-15. And 2100 North, still seeing that eastbound delays scattered from Redwood Road over to I-15. When you need the financial products and services for every stage of life, Cyprus Credit Union is there for whatever the future holds. Visit cypruscu.com today. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, sunny with some clouds throughout the day, highs in the upper 60s, but some winds will cool down the valley, and a cold front will work its way into Utah tomorrow. Some rain and maybe a few flurries in the morning. In the afternoon on Thursday, we'll see the snow start to come down. Right now, 53 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, according to Reuters, President Trump is telling us that the war in Iran is close to being over and telling the world to brace for what he calls an amazing 2 days. In fact, we're expecting peace talks to potentially continue as soon as today.
And at the same time, I saw this morning in the Washington Post that the U.S. is sending thousands of more troops to the Middle East, including sailors and Marines, due to arrive as the administration, of course, attempts to enforce a maritime blockade against the regime in Tehran.
So what we're hearing and what's happening is this. Iran is blockading the strait for all of the countries that would be using that except for Iran, and the U.S. is blocking the strait for Iran. So it's effectively blocked for everyone, but different parties are blocking different ships coming in and out of it. So right now the strait seems to be, although what I heard was that something like six ships crossed yesterday, so I guess both sides felt that it was legitimate.
Well, what's interesting also, speaking of Reuters, is I saw their reporting both last night and this morning, because I double-checked to see if the story had changed, saying basically there was no decrease in the traffic going through the strait. So yes, it was already blockaded and it was really significantly reduced, but from that reduced number, it has not decreased. And we saw ships from China, at least one ship from China has transited through the strait. And
China has said very clearly, we're going to put ships through there. And they've also alluded to the fact that they may be supplying Iran with some weapons.
And, I saw this morning on social media that President Trump has said he has asked President Xi to not supply them with weapons, and that the president of China has agreed not to supply Iran with weapons. And so President Trump said, when I see him next, I will give him a big hug.
And he's seeing him in a month.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a huge conference between the U.S. and China in a month to talk about trade, to talk about defense, to talk about what they're going to do. And that's, they cannot have those talks very effectively if China's not getting any oil, or B, Trump, or why do I keep saying Trump instead of China? China is supplying weapons to Iran. I mean, those are things that would make China mad if they're not getting oil, and the United States mad if they're supplying weapons to Iran. So those two issues need to get resolved, or the talks with the U.S. and China are going to be, little or no value. So it's. I think it's always hard to know where we are in the process of these peace talks, because, of course, you get information from both sides, and it's still unclear, I think, where they're going. So over the weekend, as you know, they were in talks for about 21 hours, I think, which seems really long. But they were not able to come to agreement. And so we are, a week plus into the 2-week time frame? We're over a week. I think today is day 9 of the 14-day ceasefire.
And we're also coming up against the 60 days where Congress needs to have at least people in Congress, including our own Senator John Curtis, are saying, look, after 60 days, the president has to come to Congress to get congressional approval to continue this war.
Right.
So we're coming up pretty close to that.
Yeah. So we're also hearing more and more about, who controls the strait, and some countries in that area, that region, because so much oil goes through there. In fact, I think China gets 90% of its oil through that area. is there a way that they can take it overland to the Red Sea, take
Ooh.
it through pipes and pipelines so that you can avoid the strait? I mean, that's going to be expensive and time consuming, and I don't know that there's anything in place right now. That could be months or years in the making.
Yeah, for sure. So I know. Look, we've been talking about Iran, and President Trump has said, as you know, that any Iranian warships near the blockade would be destroyed. Pakistan is bringing the sides together and said that, of course, you just said that the second round could be happening over the next 2 days. And then Lebanon and Israel, and this is important, they opened their first direct diplomatic talks in decades because there's so much fighting still going on in Lebanon. And by fighting, I mean Israel is sending missiles into Lebanon to take out Hezbollah, but they're also hitting a lot of civilian targets.
And here's more from ABC's Karen Travers at the White House on what may be happening with talks, which may begin as early as today.
He is expressing confidence and optimism, but not explaining why he is confident and optimistic, because there are no talks right now scheduled between the U.S. and Iran. The president indicated to our John Carl that there could be an amazing 2 days ahead, but he didn't elaborate on what that meant. He was asked if Vice President Vance might be involved in further talks between the U.S. and Iran, and he said that he could be, but notably there is nothing scheduled right now.
So she was on earlier this morning with the morning news, and I was able to hear Karen Travers. It was really interesting. She also had more information about the opening of the Strait of Hormuz.
The president in a social media post said, quote, "China is very happy that I am permanently opening the Strait of Hormuz." Now, it's not clear what the president means there by permanently opening, because, of course, there is that blockade right now by the U.S. Navy, which the president says has been brilliant and it's holding 100%. We heard that update yesterday from CENTCOM that said that the U.S. Navy has completely halted economic trade going into and out of Iran by sea. So they feel very optimistic that this is working right now.
So it's hard to say what's going on. And we've also heard that the Iranian naval fleet is largely non-existent, but they do have some smaller boats with handheld devices that can actually destroy ships going through that area.
And we have Libby Dean, White House correspondent for News Nation, with us. Thanks for joining us, Libby.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm wondering if you can just give us, we just heard a little bit from Karen Travers from ABC. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about where we are with potential peace talks. Are things happening today, tomorrow? Do you know?
As far as like actual face-to-face right now between the U.S. and Iran, no, things are not happening today. But the president did leave it open to potentially things happening as early as this week. Obviously, it's Wednesday at this point, but the talks that happened last time in Islamabad, I mean, they came together practically within a 24-hour time period. So there's really no telling here if this comes together as quickly as potentially the White House and Iran had hoped. That we did see today, though, that this Pakistani delegation arrived in Iran, and they're delivering U.S. messages, and they're also talking about the second round of talks with the U.S. Of course, the Pakistanis have been absolutely central in being the mediator here, and that is, of course, where the last talks were held.
So I wonder, too, if you could talk to us about the congressional approach to the War Powers Act and whether Congress is going to say the president needs to get approval from us.
Yeah, so there's supposed to be a vote today, but this has already failed 3 times in the Senate, and that is likely going to be the case again this afternoon. What Democrats have been saying is essentially they're going to continue to force these votes onto the House or the Senate or House floor essentially weekly, and what they're trying to do is rein in Trump's power until this war is over, or as it continues, they plan to do that at least weekly. But we're expecting it to fail. But you take a look at what Republicans are saying at this point, and they at one point had said they would consider this war powers resolution if Trump was weighing putting U.S. boots on the ground. Of course, right now we're in a ceasefire, so that's not something that's really in talks as much as it was, say, a week ago before the ceasefire was implemented. But they could potentially vote on this if it reaches 60 days, if the conflict reaches 60 days, we're about 13 days out from that, and Congress would be required by law to vote on further military action there.
Libby, is the administration or anyone from D.C. talking at all about Israeli-Lebanon talks that may soon be going on?
Yeah, these were huge talks yesterday. Very, very historic moment in D.C., and incredibly historic also to see the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, sitting down in that room. Also noteworthy that I don't think got a lot of attention was the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, was there as well. Now, once all of these wrapped up, basically what they agreed upon was another round of talks. But that in itself is historic that these talks are happening. But, of course, the Lebanese government separate here in these talks, and you're seeing Hezbollah say they're not going to abide by any kind of negotiations. But regardless, having these two sit down and talk it out while Israel continues to fire upon Lebanon and fire on those Hezbollah targets, it's really historic. And, of course, this is all part of the broader, when you look at the war with Iran, because the big disagreement on whether Lebanon was included in the ceasefire in the first place. Iran said it was, Pakistan said it was, the U.S. was adamant that it never was, and now you're seeing this potential for a second round of talks that did come up behind closed doors last time, and likely to come up again. Obviously, the nuclear issue is the bigger issue here, but ceasefires and peace within the region is something that President Trump obviously wants to see.
All right. Thank you so much. That was Libby Dean, White House correspondent for News Nation. And when we come back, do you remember that really terrible flood last summer that took out the Camp Mystic in Texas?
It was horrible.
Owners of the camp shared emotional testimony yesterday as the parents of the only child whose body has not been recovered is suing to keep the camp from reopening. We're going to visit that story when we come back.
Hi, I'm Utah tax attorney Jordan Wilcox. When the IRS invades your life, it's never good news. Keep in mind, it's not just you.
I owed roughly $34,000.
$61,000. When the IRS first contacted me, I was horrified.
When they start hounding you and harassing you and assaulting you.
Don't face the IRS alone. With everything in your life at stake, don't trust just anyone.
From what I got told was being done in a matter of 2 years, he had done in a matter of like 48 hours.
It's a great thing to have the IRS off your back.
We have reduced our tax liability by over $42,000.
Once I signed on with Jordan, I never talked to the IRS again.
It changed our lives.
You need someone to fight for you. Visit endtaxworry.com and get relief today. Let's solve your tax problems now. Visit endtaxworry.com. That's endtaxworry.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
It's the time of year when so many wonderful things are happening. First of all, we've got Mother's Day just around the corner. We also have a lot of engagement activities, even some early spring weddings. And, of course, we have graduations and so much more. It's time to make your reservations at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Either location, right in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City. If you're going to be up in the mountains, they're right there, Hotel Park City, with the very best meal you have ever had. It awaits you at either locations. Now, of course, I love to talk about the steaks. The ribeye is my absolute favorite. Each and every steak is cooked to perfection. But, of course, there are other wonderful entrees as well, whether it be seafood or poultry or a specialty dish. It is time. Make your reservations for those special occasions that are just around the corner at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, heart of downtown Salt Lake City or Hotel Park City.
You deserve a home that's truly your sanctuary. Why are you waiting? Dreammaker Bath & Kitchen helps turn someday into today. A space that works and feels like you. Because design and build live under one roof, your remodel experience stays organized. From the first discovery consultation to the final walkthrough, with one team from start to finish. You deserve a home that you can truly be happy in. And that's possible right now. A clear, structured timeline keeps guesswork out of your kitchen or bath project, and it starts with your budget and a fixed price. Then the detailed plan begins with smart and stylish selections, so you know exactly what to expect. Dreammaker Bath & Kitchen is built on integrity and customer focus, and that shows up in the little things. Clear clean job sites, and proactive updates that keep you fully in the loop. Back nationally and 3 locally owned Wasatch Front locations. Schedule a consultation at dreammaker-remodel.com. That's dreammaker-remodel.com. Enhancing lives, improving homes. dreammaker-remodel.com.
My name is Tom.
My name is Cindy.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know our time and money are going to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
An expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
I wish we'd never had camp that summer. That was from some emotional testimony coming from the co-owner of Camp Mystic in Texas, where last summer 27 campers and counselors died in really some catastrophic flooding.
And Camp Mystic is scheduled to reopen in May, but families of the victims want to preserve the damage at the campsite as evidence, saying the directors did not do enough to protect those girls. Here's more from ABC's Trevor Ault.
An emotional testimony from the directors of Camp Mystic, grilled on the stand about their response during last year's devastating Texas floods that killed 25 young girls and 2 counselors.
I grabbed 2 girls, and there was a third one that I didn't grab. And I held on to those girls. I wish we never had camp that summer.
A judge is weighing whether the Eastland family can reopen the camp in a matter of weeks. Families of the victims want to preserve what they feel is a crime scene, saying the camp directors did not do enough to protect those girls.
Well, I knew I had to figure out who we had and didn't have at that point. And, sorry.
The camp directors admit they didn't see weather alerts about the flood danger, and they didn't evacuate the campers until it was too late.
Why did you do nothing to get a hold of them?
I knew I couldn't get a hold of them.
What did you do to try?
There's nothing to try. I didn't have any means to get a hold of them. There was nothing to try to get a hold of them.
Did you try and scream?
You couldn't have heard a scream.
Did you try?
No.
The Camp Mystic says this year's camp will not be held on the Guadalupe River, but instead higher up on the hill. And they say more than 800 girls have already enrolled to attend.
So it's an interesting lawsuit because what they're saying is they shouldn't reopen the camp because apparently there's still at least one victim that hasn't been located, and they're saying that it should be preserved as a crime scene or maybe as a scene where evidence could be taken more in terms of the civil lawsuit. Camp Mystic is saying, look, we're reopening, but we'll go to a higher location. We'll preserve
Which isn't
the
the same.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting lawsuit, but gut-wrenching because a lot of people are coming in talking about what they've had to go through.
It was hours of testimony yesterday, and the camp co-owner, Edward Eastland, said he tried to save campers during the tragedy.
I held on to those girls, holding on to the door frame while there was another girl, twins, one who jumped on my back. I don't know who it was, but they put their arms around my neck before we got washed out. I don't remember how long it took me to get to the tree where all the other girls were found, but I remember a lot of them told me I was the last one that they saw in there.
So that was camp co-owner Edward Eastland. In fact, his father, Dick Eastland, one of the camp's longtime director, died trying to rescue the children from the flooding. So it wasn't like the owners were abandoning the ship and running away. They were there trying to do everything they can to save people.
You know, I remember this was one of the big news stories when we were just starting as hosts on Inside Sources, and there was just so much, right? And you heard some testimony about, well, what did you do to try to contact them? Remember, they didn't have cell phones.
Right.
They were out of range for a lot of it, and they just didn't know. And then there were the person who was responsible for setting off the alarm was like sick or something like that. Anyway, the hearing yesterday was part of a lawsuit that was filed by a family of Seal Stewart. She was 8, and she's the only girl at the camp whose body hasn't been found. So an attorney asked Edward Eastland, the co-owner, if he remembers seeing Seal during the flood.
Was she one of the girls that was with you when you were swept out?
I don't know. I know she wasn't she didn't come from Twins 1, but I don't know if she was on my back. I don't know who was on my back.
My word.
It was just such a tragedy. And remember, I remember seeing images after the flood had gone through and they were doing searches. And one of the problems that I remember seeing is that there was, for example, it showed in the river, there was a car that had been swept into the river. It was filled almost all the way up to the roof with mud. And so you had to go. It wasn't just that you were searching in the river; there was so much debris and so much mud.
There's so much second guessing and Monday morning quarterbacking on something like this, which always happens, and it's not inappropriate by any means. But there was almost seemingly, the rains are coming. Oh, it's going to flood. It's going to get some water. But they weren't like in as big a rush as some people thought to get people out of there. And the communication with the local state and county authorities was almost non-existent, even though people were saying, hey, these waters are rising, this is going to be a problem. They're like, yeah, it happens every once in a while. I don't know that people appreciated until it was too late just how big this flood was going to be.
And we've talked about that often on sometimes it takes real tragedies for people to say, we need something better. For example, we need to have eyes in the air when we have large gatherings now, because that didn't happen at UVU in September. And now going forward, we're going to have increased surveillance, right, when there are large gatherings.
Yeah, and we had the park director on Monday from Goblin Valley here in Utah talking about search and rescue, what they do there, and how they have people involved. Even though it's backwoods, it's part of the state where there's not very much going on. I think it's down by I forget. It's by Hanksville is the closest town, I think. But anyway, they're just
like an hour out from an ambulance.
Yeah, it's hard to get anybody down there. I don't know what this was like in Texas, but here in rural Utah, getting people to things like that is difficult. But you have to plan for the worst, because we have recreation, we have girls camps, we have scout camps, we have things like that, and you just have to plan for the worst, because those young kids are counting on authorities to make sure they're treated safely.
So Mr. Eastland also said yesterday, and this is according to the New York Times, but he thinks that there should have been a more urgent alert, something like an Amber Alert. You know how like it just is so loud and it will really get your attention. He was suggesting that there be something like that.
Yeah.
So.
The hearings are supposed to continue through today, and then a judge is expected to rule on whether they're asking for what they call a temporary injunction, which would require the officials of Camp Mystic to cordon off flooded parts of the camp by the Guadalupe River to preserve evidence. And the judge is trying to decide whether or not that temporary injunction will stand, or whether the officials there can open the camp and use part of that area. So the significance of that area as a crime scene or as an evidentiary scene for the civil suit that's being filed, that will be filed, is what the judge has to take into account. Sometimes you can go through, I think of cases where we have homicides or burglaries or things like that, and you can't just close a house off forever. You can preserve the scene for what the time that you need to get all the information, all the forensics, all the pictures, everything you need out of it. But we don't typically just close things off indefinitely while you're preserving a case or pursuing a case. There are exceptions to that. This judge may very well say, look, the harm in keeping it open, the difficult part of keeping it open is outweighed by the importance of the evidentiary value of that scene. So it's a hearing the judge will just have to make a decision on.
So I'm looking at a Washington Post article about yesterday's hearing too, and one of the things that they're saying is that the lieutenant governor of the state of Texas has talked about the investigation, and he's urged state health officials not to renew the camp's license, so that they couldn't even open, right? Not even just that they want to preserve that site as they continue investigations, but that they think that they should lose their license to have a camp.
That would make the whole hearing kind of moot if they say, well, we're going to take your license away. So that would be a separate issue altogether, whether or not they could, and may result in another lawsuit altogether, deciding whether or not that would exceed the authority of the local officials to simply close the camp down. I mean, people died, and it was almost inexcusable in the manner that it happened. But was it a one-off? Was it something that just was so completely unforeseeable that you can't really fault the owners and the people that ran the camp, or is it something that should have been expected and they should be held accountable for and responsible for, maybe to the point where it just doesn't get reopened?
They did admit in the hearing yesterday that there was more that they could have done and more that they should have done. In fact, they didn't even have a detailed flood evacuation plan, even though there was regular flooding there. Not to the extent of last year, but there was regular flooding. And this is Easton. Mr. Eastland acknowledged that more campers would have survived if they had decided to evacuate more quickly, if they had used the camp loudspeakers to broadcast warnings, and if they had directed their counselors to take campers to higher ground.
So you can imagine either it's not going to be reopened or it will be reopened under some very, very strict guidelines and conditions and things that will have to be in place before the owners will be able to get that going again. Tragedy. And that camp has a great history. A lot of kids that went there for years and thought it was really a fun thing. So you hope that something gets worked out in a case like that. You also hope that people can work out their taxes because you know what? It's tax day. And guess what? I got mine filed last night, so I didn't wait till the last day. I waited till the second to the last day. But anyway, we're going to walk through what you can do if you can't pay your tax bill, plus what you need to do if you need more time to file altogether. A tax expert will join us after this.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. People in Salt Lake City are speaking out to try and save a community education program set to end this summer. They showed up at a Salt Lake City school board meeting last night asking leaders to reconsider.
These community education classes mean a lot to community members who want to continue lifelong learning at affordable prices.
The board says the program is outside their mission to educate K through 12 students, and they need to reallocate resources. Some speakers say the classes can benefit young students by acting as an after-school workshop. Another Utah city is delaying the watering season. Highland asking residents to wait and not water their lawns until Mother's Day. Water usage is being monitored, but residents won't have to worry about metered billing until 2027. Our top national story from ABC News. President Trump has been signaling that the U.S. policy in Iran with the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz has been working.
The president in a social media post said, quote, China is very happy that I am permanently opening the Strait of Hormuz. Now, it's not clear what the president means there by permanently opening, because, of course, there is that blockade right now by the U.S. Navy, which the president says has been brilliant and it's holding 100%. We heard that update yesterday from CENTCOM that said that the U.S. Navy has completely halted economic trade going into and out of Iran by sea. So they feel very optimistic that this is working right now.
ABC's Karen Travers reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow down 236 points to 48,299. Coming up next, storm arriving tomorrow. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Andy, I like that shirt. Is that a new shirt?
It is. It's from Ann Collar, and it's really rare to find a shirt that looks good and is super comfortable. And this is a fabric unlike anything I've ever felt.
I got one for my husband and my sons, and they watching my 19-year-old put on the Ann Collar shirt and sort of check himself out in the mirror. I thought, wow, he's really digging that. And I can understand why, because it's not just comfortable, it's stain repellent, which I needed.
Oh, my goodness.
Because,
That is something.
He attracts spaghetti sauce to shirts like you would not believe. And with these Ann Collar shirts, I can get it out.
Amanda, I have to wear a special bib when I eat spaghetti with a white shirt on. But with Ann Collar shirts, it takes those little tiny nicks and stains, and they don't stick to you. Yeah, you don't have to dump a bucket of stuff on you, but it would repel that too.
You've got to try one. So whether it's the traditional white shirt or any of the patterns they have, it's Ann Collar, and they're made right here in Utah.
If you've never tried Ann Collar before, we have got permission to give you 15% off at andcollar.com and go get your first. Use the code KSL15.
That's Ann Collar, andcollar.com.
Taxes could be your biggest expense in retirement. More than housing, more than healthcare, or anything else. And many retirees will overpay their taxes by tens of thousands of dollars every single year. Learn how you could significantly reduce your taxes in retirement at a free event with retirement tax expert Becky Swansburg on Thursday, April 23rd at 6:30 p.m. in downtown Salt Lake. It's hosted by Boss Retirement Solutions. Becky worked in the White House and on Capitol Hill on tax policy, and she has the inside track on the proven strategies that could lead to a windfall of savings in retirement. This event is free, but seating is limited. So reserve your free ticket now by calling this number, 801-850-6988. That number one more time, 801-850-6988.
For informational purposes only, not tax, legal, or investment advice. Speaker is not a client and does not endorse BOSS. Speaker compensation creates a conflict of interest.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Does it feel like someone stabbing a knife into your heel? Or does your lower back give you problems as the day goes on? The Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Ann.
Every time I stood up, pain just shot up my legs. Fortunately, I found the Good Feet store. I went to them after my doctor diagnosed me with plantar fasciitis. And now, thanks to the Good Feet store, I'm 100%.
Wouldn't it be nice to get back to doing what you love, like Patrick did?
I was in constant pain. Somehow my fiance and I found our way into the Good Feet store. Put my foot on the arch support system. I put them in my shoes, my back, my knees, my ankles. Thank you. Thank you, everybody at the Good Feet store. You gave me my active life back.
Learn more or schedule an appointment at goodfeet.com and come in and get your free personalized fitting at the Good Feet store. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big. UCCU. Love where you bank. Here's Cormac Bone.
It's almost a completely calm drive out there once again. No delays on I-15 between Ogden and Provo, and the crash that we had near Point of the Mountain has also cleared off the road. So it's just construction delays in Lehigh right now, giving drivers the worst. Eastbound Pioneer Crossing, starting near 7800 West and reaching toward I-15, and scattered delays really both directions on 2100 North between Redwood Road and I-15. I'm Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather. Southern winds will push the high today to close to 70 degrees, but then temperatures drop tomorrow when a cold front arrives, bringing a rain-snow mix to the valley floor. That storm could linger into early Friday morning with possible lake effect snow. Right now, 55 degrees and mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, today's April 15th, which means it's tax day, and whether you filed yet or not, whether you maybe just spent the night preparing your paperwork or you're thinking, I'll get to it this afternoon, we're going to give you some last-minute tax tips.
And today's focus is really, what do you need to do if you need more time to file? Or maybe you filed and you realize you cannot pay your tax bill.
So our next guest is Susan Spears, CPA and CEO of the Utah Association of CPAs. So Susan, my accountant told me this weekend that I owed a bunch of money. Luckily, I was able to get it, but what if I hadn't been able to? And April 15th is coming, and I still owe some money. What would be my remedy?
Well, first of all, I would say for sure, regardless of whether you can pay or not, make sure you file your taxes. Because if you don't, you could be assessed a failure to file penalty, which is 5% of the unpaid taxes up to 25% of the amount owed. That penalty is totally avoidable just by filing the return, okay, or filing an extension. So make sure that's done. If you can't file, if you can't pay your taxes, send in what you can. Because you still want to reduce any penalty and interest that you'll be assessed for not paying your taxes on time. And if you need, if we need to help you with an installment plan, some sort of short-term payment plan, we have options.
So can I ask you more about that, about payment plans available through the IRS? How do those work? How do tax payers sign up for those?
So you can go onto the IRS website, irs.gov, and the easiest thing to do is just type in installment plan or payment plan, and it'll come up with the links that you need to do. So you can do what's called a short-term payment plan. If you owe less than $50,000 and can pay it in less than 180 days, you can go ahead and get that set up online.
So does the IRS have a discretion a little bit when you mentioned penalties and interest, and you said, well, file, first of all, file even if you don't have the money. And second, pay what you can and set something up. Then does the IRS tend to treat that with a little more leniency than just not filing at all?
Well, when you don't file at all, sometimes there's concern with the IRS that you're trying to avoid paying your taxes. So, and then if you don't, and they will, once you finally do file your taxes, I mean, they'll send you a letter saying, hey, you still owe this income tax. But if you're more proactive, the penalties and interest are still going to apply, but they're just easier to work with.
Can I also ask you a question? What are the types of circumstances for an average Utah taxpayer where they would all of a sudden unexpectedly have a large tax bill? Like, what could they do to prevent that the next tax year?
Well, first of all, I would say you probably need to meet with your CPA and do some tax planning. I mean, we see this especially, you see windfalls. Let's say somebody got this, if they're self-employed, had a fabulous year and had all this income come in and they just inadvertently didn't plan to pay taxes. I know that sounds kind of silly, but it happens all the time. You kind of just don't think about it if you're not strategizing with somebody. So that happens. Let's say, last year we've seen this a lot. The market was pretty good for those that are investing and really staying on top of things. So they have all these huge capital gains that now they get to pay income taxes on that maybe they didn't plan for, and they never received the money.
Right. And Susan, I'm one of those individuals who have my own business, at least I did before I came to KSL, and my accountants were scrambling every year because we'd have good years, bad years, in between years, whatever. And so they would give me a list. Of course, I rarely followed it. Of we'll pay quarterlies. At least pay this, so we're not getting stuck with a big bill. And I'd always think, well, last year was really big. I'll never replicate that. And then I'd get stuck at the end of the year. I mean, do you think it makes sense to give people a plan, even prospectively, and say, well, at least pay quarterly so that you don't get stuck at the end of the year with some big hit?
Yeah, I think a good rule of thumb is, especially self-employed people, estimated tax payments, 100% of the previous year's taxes, just to avoid those underpayment penalties. And then be disciplined, put the payment dates on your calendar and just put it in your cash flow projections. I got to pay this, It's a simple way. Now, if let's say things kind of start turning south or whatever, then maybe we lower that estimated tax payment to 90% of what you think your income liability is going to be. But that's where it's integral that you're working with a CPA to help you through all this, because we're in some weird times right now, and businesses are up and down. We have inflation, recession, gas prices, all sorts of things that are impacting what we do that are really kind of hard to forecast.
So, Susan, what if people are like, look, I just cannot make the deadline today. I need an extension. How does that work?
So they can actually, if you don't have a CPA, CPAs, we've been filing these extensions, honestly, since January. We kind of know out of our client base who's going to be extending. But if you just haven't had the time, or you don't have all your tax documents, you can go online to the IRS website and file a Form 4868 online on their site for free.
Susan, this might seem like a dumb question, but I don't do my own taxes. But say a person has paid their quarterlies, they pay taxes, and they're due for a refund. Can you, or do you ever advise, is it even possible to just apply that to the next year's taxes, or do you have to take it?
No, absolutely. We apply them to the next year all the time. It kind of depends on the client or the taxpayer. Some clients will say, no, I want the refund, and then they keep their estimated tax payments even. Most people, honestly, will just say, you know what, let's just apply it to the next year. I've already paid it. It's gone. and they do that. It works out very nicely.
We have a texter this morning that said that they have to file an extension because they haven't received all of their paperwork. What does somebody do if they feel like they haven't gotten that paperwork?
So filing an extension, number one. But of course, if you have any insight or calculate what you think you might owe, send that in with your extension. You can also estimate, it's frustrating. All the required forms are supposed to be out, W-2s, 1099s, all that should be out. So I would also recommend that they call whomever they're waiting for information for to see where it is and when they plan on getting it.
Thank you, Susan. That was Susan Spears, CPA and CEO of the Utah Association of Certified Public Accountants. And Holly, I have to say, we're going to invite her every year because I get free tax information. A lot of these questions I ask her are, what
about this?
Let's say you have this, because they hit a little bit close to home with me.
Well, we're going to continue a conversation on taxes, and I had never really stopped to think about how much of my 8-hour workday, well, it's not really 8 hours, but how much of my workday goes to just pay taxes. The answer might surprise you. We're going to have that answer with Billy Hesterman from the Utah Taxpayers Association when we come back after this break.
Veterans and active duty service members, when your call to service ends, your mission doesn't have to. Go from GI to IT in just a few months at My Computer Career. Prepare for a high-demand career in cybersecurity, protecting people, systems, and institutions from real cyber threats. Cyber warriors are needed now. Will you answer the call? Go to mycomputercareer.edu/CWP to learn more. That's mycomputercareer.edu/CWP, an elite CompTIA certification partner. VA education benefits are available to those who qualify.
This message comes from Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort. Journey through the heart of Europe on an elegant Viking longship with thoughtful service, destination-focused dining, and cultural enrichment on board and on shore. With small ships that bring travelers closer to the destination, there's more time to explore. And every Viking voyage is all-inclusive, with no children and no casinos. Discover more at Viking.com.
For over 22 years, speaking on business on KSL News Radio has been a beloved tradition, celebrating our heroic business leaders and Utah consumers who have helped build one of the strongest state economies in the nation. Now, under the stewardship of the Salt Lake Chamber and hosted by Chamber President and CEO Derek Miller, the program continues to shine a spotlight on those who make Utah's business environment dynamic and thriving. With his expertise and passion, Derek brings the stories of our business community to life. As part of the Salt Lake Chamber, Speaking on Business is proud to continue its legacy of highlighting inspiring stories, trends, and special guests. Support Utah businesses now and be part of Utah's thriving economy. More information can be found at slchamber.com. That's slchamber.com.
The Children's Center Utah provides a unique service in our communities by meeting the needs of very young children and their caregivers. Here's another Little Minds Big Hope message from Dr. Jennifer Mitchell, the Children's Center Vice President of Clinical Strategy and Innovation.
Did you know when young children act out, they may be trying to communicate something they don't yet have the words for? Behavior is often a signal that a child needs support. Find out more at childrencenterutah.org.
Salt Lake City, this is your final boarding call, extended by popular demand. Titanic, the exhibition, is sailing away soon. Don't miss your last chance to experience the heartbreaking and heroic stories of her passengers and crew. See the incredible artifacts before the doors close forever on April 19th at the Shops at Southtown and Sandy. Get your tickets before they're gone at thetitanicexhibition.com. That's thetitanicexhibition.com.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Will?
When I was 50, my whole life fell apart. I lost my job, I lost my wife, I lost the house, I lost pretty much everything except for my life. When the IRS came calling, I just didn't have it in me. I felt like Wile E. Coyote, just waiting for that IRS anvil to drop.
Then Will found Tax Relief Advocates.
I heard their advertisement on the radio, I wrote down the number, and I made the call that changed everything. The IRS gave me a bill for $40,000. Tax Relief Advocates got that down to $3,200. I've paid 9 cents on the dollar. Now that's a great deal in anybody's book.
If you owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS, don't lose hope. Do what Will did and call TRA for a consultation.
But for me, the real win is I got my life back.
Visit TRA.com or call 800-488-2578. 800-488-2578. That's 800-488-2578.
Right now, water heaters are on sale at Any Hour Services. Schedule a free estimate today to see how much you'll save. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place
the ridgeline is imposing the escarpments, the drops.
where survival,
It's dark now. I have nothing.
is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion and that of the sheriff is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Well, you asked the question, Holly, so I'll answer. Utah families spend nearly 2.5 hours each workday, just to pay their taxes.
And that seems like a fair amount of time. So this year, the Utah Taxpayers Association, like they have for a number of years, released a report on the Bob and Brooke Beehive family, which is a fictionalized but family of 5 living in Salt Lake City, and talked about the taxes that they pay, local, state, and federal. And we have with us on the line Billy Hesterman, the president of the Utah Taxpayers Association, to tell us about the Beehive family. Thanks for joining us, Billy.
Thanks for having me, you guys. Happy Tax Day.
Happy Tax Day to all who celebrate.
So what did we learn in terms of this year, maybe going back years in the past, Billy? Are things better, worse, or about the same?
Well, what we've seen with the Beehive family is that their federal taxes did go down. So President Trump's efforts for a family to see their tax go down did work. But on the other side, government still needs money. So we did see a little bit of an uptick on some of the other taxes. So it was kind of a wash.
So this report, and I feel like I've talked to you about this before maybe, but when you're looking at a quote-unquote average family, what is the income that you're starting with? Like, how much money does this family make?
So we started with $123,000 is what this family is bringing in. Bob, the husband, making $80,000. Brooke, working part-time in real estate, earns $42,000. So that's how we get to that number. And that's about the 129% of the median household income for Utah. So that was kind of how we figured it.
So, Billy, at the outset, you said that because of the One Big Beautiful Bill, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, that I guess federal income taxes or something came down. You said some of the other taxes went up. What other kinds of taxes went up?
Well, so none of the taxes actually went up. What happened was because we actually gave the Beehive family a little bit of a raise from what they've had in previous years. So what happened is they made more money, so they had to pay more in state income. And as property taxes, the values continue to rise. And also they live in Salt Lake City, so they've had some property tax increases because of the bonds and different property tax changes that have been made in the city itself by the school district and some of the other taxing entities in there. So they did have their property taxes increase, but also they paid a little more in income tax because they made more money.
What's the largest share of this family's tax burden?
The largest portion goes to Social Security and Medicare, as well as the payroll taxes. So there's still that federal element to it that, what gets taken out of the check right off the top is where a large portion of it goes. But then the next one, when you get down to things that you think about every day, it's actually the state income tax where they paid the most at about $3,800.
So given that most of the country, or maybe all the country, has the same federal tax burdens, where does Utah sit nationally? I don't mean its place or anything, but how do we do nationally? Because we do have a state income tax. Some states don't. Ours seems to be pretty modest, but how does a Utah compare to, say, other states in terms of their overall tax liability?
We're about middle of the pack. So when we do those rankings, we kind of sit between 25th and 28th usually. And so I think that's about where you look at population-wise, where we are and where we measure with other states. That's about where the tax burden, kind of where you would think ends up. It's about where it ends up, is right there in the middle.
So when you do these reports, Billy, as the Utah Taxpayers Association, what is the end result that you're hoping for? Is it just informing lawmakers and members of the public? Is it hoping for some change? What's your goal?
My goal is to be able to educate taxpayers to fully understand how much they're paying in taxes. We have made it so easy to have your taxes paid for you, whether it's when you go, check out at the grocery store and you pay your sales tax there, or it just gets automatically taken out of your paycheck for your income tax, or how your property tax, if you have a mortgage, it's just already part of your payment that you make each month with your escrow. And so you don't really think about your taxes until maybe someone points it out to you to say, hey, did you know you actually paid $34,000 in taxes last year? And then they kind of go, no, I didn't. But then when you break it down for them, they look at it and go, oh my gosh, you're right. And hopefully that does cause them to engage a little bit more with their elected officials and tell them, we need you to stretch the dollars as far as you can before you ask for more.
We've talked about this a little bit before, Billy, but a lot of Utahns have enjoyed, on the one hand, a huge increase in the value of their properties and their homes. What has happened correspondingly with property taxes, and are those a huge part of a person's tax liability now, maybe more than they have been in the past?
Well, it depends on what the entities they live in have done also, because as values rise, the rate does drop, and so it should be a revenue neutral move most of the time. But services and costs have increased for government, and so they have had to increase property taxes to keep up with inflation and keep up with the cost of hiring employees and keep up with the cost of goods. And so they have had to increase those taxes. And so the property tax burden, I would say, maybe has nudged up a little bit on most families in Utah, but it hasn't been as dramatic maybe as the uproar is in the political world. I know that's a top issue that many of our elected officials are hearing from their people about right now, is do something about the property tax. And, we're welcome to keep talking about what we can do to bring that burden down.
And Billy, isn't the property tax one of the ones that you have found people complain about the most because it feels so in your face when you get that bill?
Yes. So, yeah, that's the biggest point of it, is that you get that bill or that notice in July, and you go, wow, it's $3,600. That's insane. But you don't realize that you're paying about $3,400 in sales tax, but it's just nickel and diming you every day. And you don't realize that it's just about as much.
Billy, we're seeing some statistics of how Americans generally feel about their taxes, and believe it or not, I mean, you would assume if anybody's asked the question, do you pay too much in taxes, everyone would say yes, but that's not the case. Some people are more balanced, but right now, at this point in history, it seems like the last number I saw was 70%, which is higher than it's been, of families, of individuals, of taxpayers who feel like taxes are too high. Do you think there's any justification for that? Or is it just a product of the times right now?
It's a product of the times. I do think we have shifted a little bit in our government, at least here in Utah. There used to be a time where working for government was seen more as it's a service, and you're going to get the benefits by receiving an excellent benefits package. I would argue over the last 15 years or so, Utah has kind of shifted away from just making the take-home pay a service, but also making that very competitive with the private sector, as well as a valuable benefits package. And so we are paying government employees more than I think we have in the past. And there is a conversation that I think taxpayers should have with their elected officials to say, is this the right way to do this, or do we want to revert back to how it kind of traditionally was before, where maybe the take-home pay wasn't so great, but you got a really good benefits package? Or do we like this new path that we're on, where we're seeing, plenty of heads of different state agencies and heads of local government making well into six-figure salaries now.
Billy, I had a conversation recently with somebody who was like, I don't mind paying my local taxes because I can see where they go. They fix the potholes, they pay for the schools, but they have a lot more heartburn with the federal taxes because they're like, I have no idea what they're doing with my money. Is that a sentiment that you come across in your work with the Utah Taxpayers Association?
Yes, I think everyone is more than happy to pay their tax to the city or the school district because they see an immediate result. You're right. You see the pothole being fixed or the parks being updated, or you see the kids, knowing they're in a good school with good teachers. When it goes up to the federal level, we know that they're not collecting enough or they're spending too much, however you want to look at it. And that you have no idea where any of that money's going. And anytime anyone does a report, they can find, we did a study on a taxpayer-funded study on cows that eat Jell-O on Thursdays, and we need to do something about that. And that's, how people get upset about federal money and how it's spent, is that it just feels like there's no way to rein in that cost and no way to really feel like it's doing anything that helps you on the ground level.
Hey, thanks for joining us again this morning, Billy. That was Billy Hesterman, president of the Utah Taxpayer Association. And I guess I'm one of those people in the minority that feels like taxes are about right now. I don't feel too uncomfortable with it. But I do feel uncomfortable about this three-letter word, HOA. A lot of people think HOAs is a bad word, but can HOAs actually make owning a home more affordable? We'll talk to an expert about that after this break.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. A person is behind bars this morning accused of intentionally setting several fires in Big Cottonwood Canyon last evening. This happened in the Mount Olympus Wilderness area. Salt Lake County Sheriff Rosie Rivera tells KSL it took them hours to reach the suspect because of the remote location.
We don't know what he was doing up here, but we do know he lit several small fires. They smoldered out, so they did not spread. But this was a very dangerous situation.
Rivera says a big reason this didn't turn out to be worse is because a National Guard helicopter was already in the area when someone stopped and called 911. She says those two factors likely prevented a large wildfire. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Tickets for public transit to World Cup events this summer in New Jersey have out-of-this-world prices.
Normally, it costs about $13 to travel to and from MetLife Stadium in Penn Station, New York. But the New York Times is reporting New Jersey Transit plans to charge at least $100 if you want to travel that way to see FIFA World Cup games this summer. And while NJT usually gives discounts to seniors, kids, and the disabled, no discounts will be allowed. New York Senator Chuck Schumer calls the pricing a shakedown. New York Governor Kathy Hochul describes it as extremely high. And New Jersey Transit says it is still deciding on match day travel prices. Sherry Preston, ABC News, New York.
Your money at this moment, the Dow down 229 points to 48,306. Coming up, it's going to be breezy before the next storm. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
If you're ready to buy a home or sell a home, and you're worried about the current real estate market because of what you've heard from some of your friends or family, well, we're here to tell you that you really shouldn't be worried, because now is a great time to buy and sell with our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Omada Real Estate.
And here's why. Buyers have more options due to increased inventory, which gives them the power to negotiate for repairs, interest rate buy-downs, and closing cost assistance. While at the same time, sellers are still getting top dollar for their homes, with home values that are higher today than ever before. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, the current real estate market presents a win-win opportunity for both buyers and sellers.
But you still do want to make sure that you're working with a team of real estate experts you can trust that can get you some great results. And that's our friends at the Stern Team, powered by Omada Real Estate.
They have helped thousands of Salt Lake City homeowners, and they're ready to help you. To get started, just go to thesternteam.com. That's thesternteam.com, or Google The Stern Team.
What are you doing every day to support your liver? If you enjoy sweets, fast food, alcohol, or take any medications, that's a vital question to ask. Hi, I'm Sherry Torkas, pharmacist and health author. For over 30 years, I've helped people make informed decisions about their health, especially concerning prevention and long-term wellness. Supporting your liver isn't just a wellness trend, it's a daily essential. That's why I recommend Active Liver by New Nordic. It's made with plant-based ingredients like milk thistle, turmeric, and globe artichoke, herbs clinically studied for their protective and restorative effects on the liver. Active Liver blends traditional herbal wisdom with modern scientific research. Not all supplements are created equal. I trust Active Liver because it's backed by science, meets strict quality standards, and delivers true daily liver support.
Active Liver is available online at Amazon or newnordicusa.com, or you can find it in stores at CVS, Meijer Grocery, Wegmans, and now Active Liver is available at your local GNC.
Imagine all that could happen in 5 years. Jobs change, kids grow up, new memes come and go. But what if you had reliable, intelligent Wi-Fi and the price didn't change for 5 years? Well, thanks to the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee, you don't have to worry about that part of your future. You're guaranteed 5 years of Wi-Fi that boosts speeds to your devices that need the most, that finds and fixes any issues before you even notice. It's like a super intelligent Wi-Fi that keeps you protected from online threats. You get incredible gaming speeds on multiple devices and no one battling for bandwidth for the next 5 years. All your devices will be working in perfect harmony with the equipment, with no annual contracts, no fees, and no strings. So even though your kid will grow up and you still won't understand 6, 7, the price for your sharp, reliable internet will stay put. The Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Select plans only.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. Here's Cormac Bone.
We do have eastbound delays in Lehigh, especially on Pioneer Crossing as you try to get onto I-15 due to that construction zone. It's a little bit lighter there, though, right now, and really all across the Wasatch Front, we're seeing some pretty light volumes, nothing too terrible. Maybe still a little slow northbound SR-36 in Lake Point and some scattered delays on the 201 in Magna, but otherwise your roadways are pretty clear for your midday drive. I'm Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, southern winds push today's temperature close to 70 degrees, but that's the warm before the storm. The cold front arrives tomorrow, bringing rain and some snow. Then Friday morning, there's a chance of lake effect snow early in the morning. Right now, it's 55 degrees and windy, getting windy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So here's a question you might not expect the answer to be what it is. That is, can HOAs actually make home ownership more affordable? That's a question we're asking today because normally we hear just the opposite. And in fact, there was just an article in the Wall Street Journal that highlighted how homeowners are actually being pushed to their limits by HOA fees.
But it seems like for some people it makes more sense to bundle everything into an HOA, and we're going to talk to our next guest, Trevor Midgley, founder and president of HOA Strategies. Thanks for joining us, Trevor.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us this, because it seems counterintuitive. How can an HOA make home ownership more affordable?
Yeah, that does seem very counterintuitive. The core concept is that cost sharing equals lower individual risk. You're pooling your assets with all of your neighbors and getting many amenities that you can often get for a lower price.
Trevor, why is it that HOA has taken on such a bad reputation? Why do people just fear HOAs? I mean, and including myself, maybe for all the wrong reasons, but why is it that people are just afraid when they hear that concept?
Yeah, that is a loaded question that has a very negative connotation with an HOA. I think a lot of that comes from maybe not understanding fully how they operate. HOAs are the simplest form of government. They're established with governing documents, volunteer board members, your neighbors who operate those. And those governing documents give the structure on how an HOA should be run. Right. But I think the negative connotation comes from that when your neighbors who are volunteers may not be trained, may not have the expertise. They may be making decisions that you may not agree with. And that fear of the unknown of what those neighbors may do, I think helps give HOAs a negative connotation. When the reality is if they're properly run and you're following those governing documents and you're following that setup, it really is a great way to lower your cost, share that risk across the community, and maybe own some amenities that you might not be able to have individually.
So can you help me understand, how do HOAs help with everyday maintenance costs? Because I guess in my mind, I'm thinking HOAs say how quickly your trash cans need to be pulled back in and what color you can paint your front door.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those things you just highlighted are the restrictions of an HOA. And definitely every HOA has some restrictions that they want their homeowners to follow to keep a standard of care in their neighborhood. But HOAs are often providing a service, and they've been created to provide a service to the homeowners. You know, and maybe that's the concept change we need, is like, what services is my HOA providing for me rather than what restrictions are they imposing on me? So every HOA is different. Every community is set up differently. But some common services that you'll see across HOAs may be lawn care services, landscaping services. In townhomes, condo associations, you're going to find building maintenance, roofing replacements. Many communities may have private roads that the HOA maintains, gated entryways, things like that. So there's definitely communities that fit kind of every lifestyle, and they're going to provide services to help with those lifestyles.
Trevor, as you speak with condo associations and townhomes who are thinking about setting up HOAs, what kind of information would you give them to avoid the problems that we all seem to equate with HOAs? I mean, I guess the easier question is, what do some HOAs do wrong that's giving them a bad reputation with some groups?
Yeah, right. I mean, one very common thing is that, look, it is an HOA. It's made up of homeowners. It could be 75 homeowners, 1,000 homeowners, depending on the size of the HOA. And these are often set up by the developer when he first builds a neighborhood or he first builds a condo association. The developer is usually setting up that HOA and kind of putting together the rules, the restrictions, and the services that that neighborhood's going to offer for all the new home buyers to move in and to kind of make sure that fits their lifestyle. But, you know, doing anything by committee, by group, you're never going to make everybody happy. And that's where you often hear those horror stories of someone who's not happy. So what we often recommend to our clients is that they implement what we call a dispute resolution policy, right? When there is a problem, when there is a dispute, let's make sure we have a clear policy on how that's going to be handled. What steps need to be taken in order to get that resolved and to kind of bring that to a conclusion. And then up front, for all homeowners, volunteer board members, if you know what that dispute resolution policy looks like, you kind of know, hey, if I do have a problem with my HOA, here's the steps 1 through 5 that I'm going to take to get a resolution on this issue.
So I'm wondering, how do HOAs affect home values? Do they decrease them, keep them, somewhat the same as houses without HOAs? How are they impacted?
So research published in the Journal of Utah Urban Economics found that homes and HOAs sell for at least 4% more than comparable homes outside of an HOA. And many industry analysis place that number closer to 5 or 6% for a well-maintained community. So your HOA is actually protecting your home value. And that's one of the goals of an HOA, is to protect that home value. It's often the biggest asset for many homeowners. And that's the goal of the HOA. A well-run HOA is going to protect that, and you're going to be able to get more when you sell that in the end. Now, definitely there are poorly run HOAs, and it's going to go with the opposite effect. But sometimes the cheapest HOA dues is the most expensive to the homeowner in the long run.
Trevor, I have a question. I always end up asking questions that are sort of hit close to home, but we've lived in our home for 15 years and never realized there was an HOA. And then recently we were told they're having a vote for HOA people who wants to serve. Apparently ours has been completely inactive. Do you see that happening once in a while?
I have seen that happen once in a while. It's very unusual because usually an HOA is charging some sort of a monthly fee or a quarterly fee. And so usually you're going to know about it because they're trying to collect their fees that help provide these services. There have been some single-family homes with limited amenities. The HOA really isn't doing any services for you. Those ones can kind of run inactive, and maybe 15 years later it gets activated for some reason, right? The common example I saw is maybe there's a small parcel of land that they owned, and UDOT or another entity came in and took that land, and that all of a sudden triggered, well, who gets the payout from that sale of land? It goes into the HOA, the common assets. which has been inactive for all these years. But now we need to activate and make sure we can manage this money that was just fell in the laps of all the homeowners.
Let me ask you one final question. Are there people who should not buy into an HOA community?
Definitely. It's a lifestyle, right? And like we pointed out, there's a lot of services, a lot of pros, a lot of upside to living in this HOA community. But there are restrictions that an HOA will pose. You know, they do want your garbage cans brought in on time. They may limit the number of pets that you're allowed to have. They have these restrictions. And so it is a lifestyle choice. And so when you're buying into an HOA, you want to make sure those restrictions match with your lifestyle and how you plan to use the property. If it doesn't match, it may be better to look for another home that's not in an HOA, or maybe a community that has different restrictions that does line up with your lifestyle a little bit better.
Oh, I was going to say, you know, a lot of people just have good or bad feelings about HOAs, but it seems like after discussing this with you that overall you would say HOAs are not a bad thing.
They are not a bad thing. And definitely every community is different. It's not apples to apples. It's not something we can just, with a broad brush, say HOAs are bad. There are very many well-run HOAs that are protecting your property values, providing you services, saving you money in the long term. And you just want to make sure you can focus on finding those well-run HOAs that do exist here in Utah.
All right. Thank you so much. That was Trevor Midgley, founder and president of HOA Strategies. And we want to hear from our listeners. Does your HOA make your life easier or harder as a homeowner? Do you feel like you get a return on investment with it? Call us at 801-575-TALK or text us at 57500, and we will be right back.
Kitchen and bath transformations start with AMC Building Materials. AMC Building Materials is a large kitchen cabinet and countertop supplier serving both wholesale and retail customers. AMC offers factory direct pricing on all interior remodeling materials, giving you exceptional value without sacrificing quality. Most standard items are available for quick payment and pickup right away. AMC Building Materials provides professional service, free design, and free on-site measurements, along with expert installation by top AMC professionals. From bold kitchen designs to beautiful functional bathrooms, AMC delivers outstanding value with styles you'll love. And best of all, most projects can be completed within just 10 days. Come experience beauty you can see, quality you can feel, and service you can trust. Get directions to the new AMC Building Materials showroom at 3678 South 700 West today and schedule your free estimate. Visit amckitchenslc.org. That's amckitchenslc.org.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
Hey, did you hear about that multi-billion-dollar Roundup settlement?
Yeah, it impacts people who are exposed to weed killers at work or at home, even if you just used it in your own yard. Lawsuits claim it causes non-Hodgkin lymphoma, a blood cancer.
But we're not sick, so that doesn't affect us.
But it does. This cancer can take 10 to 15 years to show up.
That's a long time after exposure.
It is, and that's why the settlement is paying claims for up to 21 years. If you get sick, even years from now, you could get $6,000 to $165,000 or more as part of this settlement.
So what's the catch?
If you stay in, you give up the right to sue them later.
Learn more at weedkillerclass.com or call 1-888-403-8201. If you or a loved one has or had non-Hodgkin lymphoma, even if they've passed, you must register for benefits. That's weedkillerclass.com. 1-888-403-8201. Paid for by the Roundup Settlement.
Hello, this is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. If you or someone you care about is facing a family law issue, let us set up a 1-hour Cordell Consult. The Cordell Consult is a meeting with a local attorney who will give you clear guidance about your options, whether it's a separation, a postnuptial agreement, divorce, or custody. Take the first step. Visit CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com.
Make game day yours with the Utah Mammoth app. Get your tickets, order food and drinks without leaving your seat, track live stats, and stream every game with Mammoth Plus, all in one place. It's the ultimate game day essential, designed for Mammoth fans. Stay connected to your hometown team and never miss a moment. Download the Utah Mammoth app today on iPhone and Android. Turn on push notifications and make every day game day. Tusks up.
Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a gripping new 9-part investigative podcast about a serial killer you've probably never heard of, Warren Forrest, a sadistic predator who prowled the Pacific Northwest in the early 70s. He hid behind the deeds of Ted Bundy, and he's only been convicted of 2 murders, but is suspected of many more. Since the release of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley, a witness identified in the podcast could lead investigators to the remains of Jamie Grissom.
He ran into the woods. He said he stumbled. As he fell down, he looks up and sees the body of a young woman.
And now the FBI is testing forensic evidence that had been collecting dust for decades. This cold case is now red hot. Binge the entire season of Stolen Voices of Dole Valley right now, wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest breaking news.
Need to replace your Social Security card? In most states, you can request one online with a My Social Security account. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can also get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
The new Inside Sources.
Where we're continuing our conversation about HOAs and how they can actually make your home more affordable. We want to hear about you. Does your HOA make your life easier or harder as a homeowner? Call us at 801-575-TALK or text us at 57500. I will say this, Holly. I have always had, for whatever reason, sort of negative feelings about HOAs. And I guess maybe even today, if I were looking at 2 houses, one's on one side of the street where they have an HOA and one's on the other where they don't, and they're the same house at the same price, I'm probably going to buy the don't. But I don't know.
It's probably not going to be the same price either. Right. To be fair, I also want to give a shout out to the Stern team of Amada Real Estate for always helping us navigate complex issues in the housing market. You know, we just spoke with Trevor Midgley, founder and president of HOA Strategies, who told us what we might get wrong about HOAs.
Comes from that when your neighbors who are volunteers may not be trained, may not have the expertise. They may be making decisions that you may not agree with, and that fear of the unknown of what those neighbors may do, I think helps give HOAs a negative connotation. When the reality is if they're properly run and you're following those governing documents and you're following that setup, it really is a great way to lower your cost, share that risk across the community, and maybe own some amenities that you might not be able to have individually.
So he did convince me a little bit about that, but it's the if it's run appropriately, if they do this and if they do that, then it's probably a good idea. I guess I can agree with that. I hear more horror stories than not about situations where it doesn't go as organized or as planned as it maybe should be. We're lucky where we are. Like I said, I didn't even know we had an HOA, but it turns out we do, and they've done a pretty good job, I guess, by staying under the radar.
Yeah, you know, I specifically, I've lived in the same home for 23 years, and I specifically look for homes that do not have an HOA. But I will say this, I was surprised to find out that most of the rest of my neighborhood does, because they were formed later as a neighborhood, probably to their chagrin. We are not part of that HOA. But one of the things that's interesting to me is I don't think any of the HOAs or the HOA that covers my specific neighborhood, they don't provide like yard services or anything like that. They either do it themselves or they hire, somebody individually, but that's not part of the service. So I guess when I think of yard service being bundled in, that's part of maybe if you live in a townhome, right, or a condominium or something like that.
And Trevor did speak to us about how that can be beneficial.
Definitely every HOA has some restrictions that they want their homeowners to follow to keep a standard of care in their neighborhood. But HOAs are often providing a service, and they've been created to provide a service to the homeowners. And maybe that's the concept change we need, is like, what services is my HOA providing for me, rather than what restrictions are they imposing on me. So every HOA is different. Every community is set up differently. But some common services that you'll see across HOAs may be lawn care services, landscaping services. In townhomes, condo associations, you're going to find building maintenance, roofing replacements. Many communities may have private roads that the HOA maintains, gated entryways, things like that. So there's definitely communities that fit kind of every lifestyle, and they're going to provide services to help with those lifestyles.
So we're taking your live calls right now. Does your HOA make your life easier or harder as a homeowner? You can call us 801-575-TALK or text us at 57500. And the Stern team of Amada Real Estate, when we've had them on the show before, they have reminded us that when you go to purchase a home, you need to look at the total fees, right? Because the purchase price is not going to necessarily show right up front that the HOA, what the HOA fees are, and you need to look at that bottom line.
Yeah, so one of our texters thought that we were sort of promoting HOAs, and I think what we really wanted to do is just have a discussion about them and talk about the pros and cons. I mean, I as an attorney, I deal with situations where people are concerned about their HOAs and their lawsuits filed over HOAs. So to me, I see them as, I don't know, sometimes problematic, but I can also see, like our guest just said a minute ago, that they can really do a lot of good in a neighborhood. So a well-run one may be good.
We have a lot of texts and comments, and let me just read you a couple. So one texter reminds us that Erin Ryder works for the state government as the HOA coordinator. So if the HOA is not performing, they should involve her. That's a good reminder. There's another texter that said that they just sold a townhouse in Daybreak and paid a year of HOA fees for the buyer, and that's a new trend in selling a property, right? That you're including a year's worth of the HOA fees. And then we have another one that says, I understand yard decor or flags in an HOA, but the American flag should always be an exemption.
Right, but you can have things written into the HOA agreement that says you can't. Now, here's a situation that came up. We always think of our home as our castle and things that we could do and improve on and do things. We decided we didn't have enough room in our garage, so we wanted to build a shed 2 years ago. And so I had to go through it was called the architectural committee, but it turns out it's part of the HOA.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't go and buy a tough shed.
Oh.
I couldn't. I had to build a shed. I had to have it engineered, and it was the exact same dimensions as the tough shed.
Oh, wow.
But it had to have rock the same height as my house, the same kind of rock. Had to have siding the same as my house. Had to have the same shingles, and I had to have the same roof angle as my house. So
that would be why I don't live where there's an HOA.
Like, okay, so it looks like a little tiny version of our house.
Yeah, well, I bet it looks nice.
But that's the thing. That I complained about it. I thought, why am I doing this? It's my house. I should be able to put whatever I want up, a big plastic shed if I want. Which I'm glad I didn't, because my neighbor had one of those. I'd say, what are we doing to the neighborhood? There goes the neighborhood.
So we have posters on our KSL question too, generally not in favor. One person, though, says she thinks it's both an advantage and disadvantage. As a disabled person, having the lawn care, snow removal taken care of is great, but otherwise I detest them, she says. So, and here's another one. This person says, I moved just to get out of the HOA. There were repairs needed I had no control over, like old sewer pipes that needed massive disaster cleanup and repairs, and learned that the HOA can randomly increase dues or mandate massive assessments when funds get low, and you don't have any control over that. So she said she joined the board to try to get things done, and the drama got so much worse.
Yeah, so, I mean, the pros and cons, I guess I get the note from the committee every once in a while that a car's parked outside when it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I complain about it. I don't like it. I think that they're nitpicky. But I like driving down my neighborhood and seeing that there is some unanimity, some uniformity. So, I mean, I keep talking myself in circles here, whether I like them or not. I can see where they do some good, because you can't count on the city or the county to do, maintenance to make sure that all the neighborhoods are fine and your trees are trimmed and grass looks good and that type of thing.
Well, we have a poster on Facebook that says it's really stressful and dumb, and they say after 5 years in a new community, we cannot keep the trees alive. We're wasting money watering grass on the street curbs, right? Because they say you have to have this much grass and you have to have this kind of tree and you have
That's
to
where
keep
it
them
gets
alive.
ridiculous when
Yeah.
people try to save water and say, I'm digging up my grass.
And they say
put
you can't
beautiful
do that.
landscaping in and say, nope, you can't have rocks. You
Yeah.
can't have grass.
So other people are saying that they make arbitrary rules that seem inconsistent based on personal preference. And we have a texter who says, can I put up a large ham radio antenna? That will determine if the HOA is good or not.
Right. That's a good example. That's fun. I mean, I don't know. I also serve as a judge in small claims court, and we get cases all the time.
Oh, well, tell me.
HOAs.
Tell me.
That's people are like, the HOA sued me, or I'm suing the HOA because they made me do this, and and this, the things that they had to do with their house that cost them money that turned out to be like the landscaping thing. The HOA made me spend this much money to replace my beautiful landscaping with grass. That wasn't in the bylaws. I never saw that. It wasn't clear.
Right.
And it should have been more articulated. So I want my money back. So they sue the HOA, or the HOA sues them, saying you haven't been paying your dues for 5 years.
Yeah.
We've got a lien on your house. Suddenly somebody wants to sell the house.
Well,
and
and that's another thing. The HOA can put a lien on your house.
Right.
That's serious, man.
Which may not seem like a problem until you try to sell the house. Then it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
big problem.
Then it's a big problem. So really interesting. And, once again, special thanks to the Stern team of Amada Real Estate for always helping us navigate Utah's housing market. You can learn your home's true value in 30 seconds by visiting thesternteam.com to find out more.
I did learn something, though, and maybe he was a little bit biased, but he said, given two houses that are the same, the one with the HOA probably would be worth more. I don't know whether that's true or not, and we could do a little research on that, but he seemed to think that it actually increased the value of your home.
Well, it wasn't just him. He did cite a study where he has seen that. So, interesting conversation. Thanks, everybody, for weighing in. Appreciate it.
Well, you and I are both wearing purple today because you told me to. It's
Yes.
Purple Up Day. That's a day to honor and celebrate military connected kids and everything they carry on their shoulders. Next, Jenny Taylor joined us. She's the widow of Major Brent Taylor and the mother of 7, to share how military services shaped her children's lives and the challenges they faced. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock, KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. Salt Lake City officials are considering additional camping bans directly impacting the unhoused population in the city. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
Camping on public property during the day, which includes just sleeping, is already illegal in Salt Lake City, but now they're looking at extending the ban to include overnights. The change would also include people camping in cars on public property and leaving their things in a public area. That could put the unhoused population in a tricky position. A nonprofit working to help address homelessness called the Nomad Alliance tells KSL there are not enough resources in the city to even handle a ban like that, and it would only lead to more tickets and a deeper hole for those experiencing homelessness. A final vote on the measure is scheduled for next month. Alexandria Bonilla, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump is sending mixed messages about the status of the Strait of Hormuz.
The president in a social media post said, quote, "China is very happy that I am permanently opening the Strait of Hormuz." Now, it's not clear what the president means there by permanently opening, because, of course, there is that blockade right now by the U.S. Navy, which the president says has been brilliant and it's holding 100%. We heard that update yesterday from CENTCOM that said that the U.S. Navy has completely halted economic trade going into and out of Iran by sea. So they feel very optimistic that this is working right now.
ABC's Karen Travers reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 189 points, the S&P is up 22. And coming up, we could see snow tomorrow. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Hey folks, Jay Broadbent here from Alpine Home Medical. I've been helping folks breathe easier for 29 years now.
Trust me, at my age, I know a thing or two about needing a good night's sleep. Is your CPAP mask old and nasty? Are your masks, filters, or tubing from the pre-COVID era? Or just plain tired of the hassle of ordering supplies yourself? Switch to our resupply program. We handle everything. Automatic shipment straight to your door. Insurance billing and expert support. It's quick, easy, and keeps your sleep therapy on track. Doesn't matter where you got your machine from, anyone can join. Head to alpinehomemedical.com, click on the Easy Resupply button. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Taxes could be your biggest expense in retirement. More than housing, more than healthcare, or anything else. And many retirees will overpay their taxes by tens of thousands of dollars every single year. Learn how you could significantly reduce your taxes in retirement at a free event with retirement tax expert Becky Swansburg on Thursday, April 23rd at 6:30 p.m. in downtown Salt Lake. It's hosted by Boss Retirement Solutions. Becky worked in the White House and on Capitol Hill on tax policy, and she has the inside track on the proven strategies that could lead to a windfall of savings in retirement. This event is free, but seating is limited. So reserve your free ticket now by calling this number, 801-850-6988. That number one more time, 801-850-6988.
For informational purposes only, not tax, legal, or investment advice. Speaker is not a client and does not endorse BOSS. Speaker compensation creates a conflict of interest.
This Mother's Day, give her more than just a gift. Give her comfort that she'll feel every single day. From Minky Couture, the blankets moms everywhere are obsessed with. Discover all new arrivals just in time for Mother's Day. We're talking brand new spring colors, fresh floral-inspired designs, and Minky's softest, coziest fabrics yet. Whether she loves something light and airy or plush and luxurious, there's a Minky made just for her. Perfect for relaxing, recharging, and wrapping yourself in some well-deserved me time. And for a limited time, enjoy special Mother's Day deals in-store and online. Plus, KSL will be live at the Layton location this Friday from 10 to 1 for the movie show. Stop by, shop Minky for mom or yourself, and use code MOVIE50 at checkout for 50% off any regularly priced blanket. Again, that's promo code MOVIE50 online at minkycouture.com or at a store location near you. Because she's given you everything. This year, give her something she'll truly feel. Minky Couture, made for moments that matter.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s, brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. Here's Cormac Bone.
No major delays on all our freeways across the Wasatch Front. I-15 clean and clear between Ogden and Provo, but we do have some city street issues in Clinton on 1800 North in that massive construction zone. Both directions are actually closed between about 2000 West and 1500 West due to some emergency maintenance in that construction zone. While you're planning your day, plan for comfort too with the Good Feet store. Find the location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs in the upper 60s today. Things get cold overnight, and we could see rain switch to snow tomorrow. Temperatures go down to the low 40s on Friday. Right now it is 57 and partly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Today is Purple Up Day, and I am wearing a very purple dress because it's a moment to recognize. Moment to recognize and celebrate the strength of military-connected kids. And I was an Air Force brat when I was growing up, so say that with pride. We moved all over. My dad was career Air Force, and I know you have a connection, too, to military kids.
Yeah, my son's a doctor in the U.S. Air Force. He's a colonel there, and he's had to be deployed 3 times. He went to South Korea, he went to Japan, he went to Afghanistan, and you appreciate what happens with a family, his wife, who's been incredibly supportive, but he's also got 4 kids who they don't know how to be supportive. All they know is Dad's gone for a period of time, and that's been tough. So yeah, wearing purple for them today makes me feel very good.
Yeah. Well, we have Jenny Taylor on the line with us, and she's the wife of fallen Utah Army National Guard member Brent Taylor, who is also the mayor of North Ogden, I think.
Right.
He was killed in action in Afghanistan in 2018, and I remember hearing that really sad news. And she also is the mom of 7. So thanks for joining us, Jenny.
Hey, it's great to be here. I love the United States Air Force, but I have to throw in a go Army really quickly.
That's okay.
There you go.
That's
There you
okay.
go.
Okay, so just we wanted to talk about military kids specifically today. So can you tell us your experience both as a mother and then in your work that you do right now with the military? What are you seeing the impacts of military kids? What are they seeing?
I love the opportunity to talk about this. I love the special you guys did recently about taking care of military families in general and really looking at the kids. The kids, like you said, it's not a matter of whether they're supportive or not, or whether they agreed or wanted this person to enlist or commission in the military. Lots of cases, they were just born into it, or it's because of a decision their parents made. And so watching out for these kiddos and the stresses they might be under. Right now, particularly, we have kids along the Wasatch Front whose parents are in harm's way. We have a lot of other kids whose parents might not be in harm's way, but they work in a uniform. And at any given moment, they might be called upon to go into harm's way. Both of those create really stressful environments for a child. We know that kids of all ages thrive on routine and predictability. And so just that uncertainty in the air, is mom or dad okay? Is mom or dad safe? Maybe mom or dad is home, but will they still be home next week, next month? We don't know. And so that can create some anxieties that then trickle over into their behavior, trickle over into their academic performance, trickle over into the classroom. So that kind of sets the stage for what these kids experience. But also then you can throw in some politics. Maybe some kids at school have parents who politically view military one way, and some kids have parents who politically view it a different way. Kids are really good mimickers, and they might hear and repeat things they've heard at home or on a newscast or something. So then sometimes you've almost politicized these little kiddos who all they're trying to do is love their mom or dad or brother or sister in the military. And then to make it even a little more complicated, you've got the unknown or unfamiliarity of most of the rest of us. Most of us here in Utah and in the United States are not in the military. Only 1%, less than, actually is in the uniform. 7 or 8% if you count all living veterans, which means the majority of us don't have that experience personally. The majority of teachers don't have a connection to the military. The majority of child care providers or soccer coaches. And so a lot of the work I'm trying to do through the Purple Star School program that you've talked about before, Purple Up Day, that's what today is looking at how do we help the rest of us raise our awareness so that we can all support the military child, even without having had the personal experience like, Holly, you have had growing up as an Air Force brat. Most of us aren't. Most teachers are not. So looking at providing resources, raising awareness, having conversations, that really changes things. It sounds so simple, but it makes really significant changes that then provides more safety and structure and support for these kids who probably don't yet have the wherewithal to articulate why they're feeling stressed or what they're worried about. It's just that uncertainty in the air that they pick up on.
What kind of conversations should parents of children whose parent may be being deployed know about to have mom and dad, as they're talking about maybe mom's going to be deployed or dad's about to be deployed? What kind of conversations should they have with children, their own children, when that's about to happen? Because those aren't just dad's going to be gone for the weekend.
No, and they're not easy conversations, because what you want to do as a parent is promise everything's going to be great and everything's going to go as planned and don't worry about it, nothing's wrong. And the truth of the matter is, in a military environment, that might be a promise you can't really make. And so you don't want to gloss over the difficulty, but what you do want to do is talk about what you do know and what's within your control. We know that mom or dad is very well trained. They're going somewhere where they have been prepared. We know there are a lot of measures in place to take care of them, and we're proud of them. They're going to do the job that they've been trained to do. Meanwhile, we reassure the child at home that as much as possible, we will maintain status quo. kids of all ages crave normalcy for whatever normalcy might be. So if there's a routine in place, the parent that's at home is going to try as hard as possible to keep that in place. I know for my daughter, she's now 20-something, but when she was a first grader and her dad went to Afghanistan, I felt it was important to volunteer in her classroom once a week. Now, that was a big ask because I had a bunch of little babies at home besides that first grader, but I coordinated with some friends to be able to do that. So she knew that even though Dad was far away, Mom was right here. And then we're going to connect with Dad in whatever way we can. Technology provides a lot of ways now. But open communication and conversation without glossing over the situation is huge. And I would say if you're a military parent having a conversation with your kiddos, be brave enough to have the conversation with some neighbors and friends. Let neighbors and friends help. Let them know that maybe it's a neighbor mom or a soccer coach that can help provide some of that predictability and stability at home that otherwise is going to get displaced because of the parent who's leaving home.
Jenny, can you share with us what it's like to work with your kids when Dad doesn't come home?
Oh, how long do you have?
2
it's
minutes.
not easy. Yeah, real quick. It's not easy. Fortunately, we do live in a day and age where there's a lot of support for military. So, for example, when my husband was killed, our community rallied around us. That's an understatement. But also making sure children know none of it was their fault. Kids naturally think things are their fault when things go wrong. That's true with divorce, with death, with anything. Making sure they know it's not their fault. Making sure they're reassured that just because one terrible worst-case scenario has come to pass, it does not then mean every worst-case scenario is likely to also come to pass. And giving them reassurance that there was honor and purpose in that parent's work, and that we're going to be okay. You know what, the phrase I use with myself, with my kids, with a lot of other surviving families is these men and women gave up their tomorrows so that we could live our todays. And as sad as we are and as hard as it is, we're going to honor them and the lives they gave us by living great lives and purposeful lives and happy, fulfilling lives. And we're going to keep that person's memory alive with us and share those stories and those memories. So it's not easy. Same would be true if a service member came home with an injury, a disability, PTSD, some of those unseen injuries. The complexity of war doesn't end when a deployment does. And so that's why I'm really grateful that you're helping us have conversations, mostly as civilians in our community, so we can rally around the families before the worst case scenario. I love how greatly supported we were when my husband was killed. I would hate for that to be the only case the community rallies, right? And I know Utah. I know we rally around each other all of the time. Let's rally around our military families while they're alive and well, while they're home and abroad, while they're here and there. Let's make sure they know that we, the 99% of civilians, support that 1% that keep us safe and free.
All right. Thank you so much. That was Jenny Taylor, the wife of fallen Utah Army National Guard member Major Brent Taylor. When we come back, we are going to continue our conversation on Purple Update by talking to a clinical psychologist who's actually a military kid himself and learn about how that shaped him as an adult and the message he has for military-connected kids. Stay with us.
Andy, I like that shirt. Is that a new shirt?
It is. It's from Ann Collar, and it's really rare to find a shirt that looks good and is super comfortable. And this is a fabric unlike anything I've ever felt.
I got one for my husband and my sons, and watching my 19-year-old put on the Ann Collar shirt and sort of check himself out in the mirror, I thought, wow, he's really digging that. And I can understand why, because it's not just comfortable, it's stain repellent, which I needed.
Oh, my goodness.
Because,
That is something.
He attracts spaghetti sauce to shirts like you would not believe. And with these Ann Collar shirts, I can get it out.
I have to wear a special bib when I eat spaghetti with a white shirt on. But with Ann Collar shirts, it takes those little tiny nicks and stains, and they don't stick to you. Yeah, you don't have to dump a bucket of stuff on you, but it would repel that too.
You've got to try one. So whether it's the traditional white shirt or any of the patterns they have, it's Ann Collar, and they're made right here in Utah.
If you've never tried Ann Collar before, we have got permission to give you 15% off at andcollar.com and go get your first. Use the code KSL15.
That's Ann Collar, AND Collar.com.
This is Nate Orchard from Advanced Window Products.
When you live in Utah, your windows do a lot more than let the light in. They protect your home from freezing winters, blazing summers, and everything in between. That's why Advanced Window Products builds every window for your local climate. No middleman, no out-of-state delays, just factory direct quality, custom made for your home. Imagine a quieter home, a warmer home, a cooler home. Our high-efficiency vinyl windows are engineered to lower your energy bills and boost your comfort all year round. And installation is done by our own certified in-house crews, never subcontractors. That's why Utah homeowners give us 5-star reviews. Right now, take advantage of our anniversary sale. For a limited time, get $2,500 off when you buy 10 or more windows. Call 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. For 40 years, Advanced Window Products has been the name Utah trusts for custom replacement windows and sliding glass doors. Advanced Window Products, built here, installed here, trusted here. Call 801-850-9100 for that $2,500 off, or visit us at advancedwindows.com to schedule your free in-home estimate.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Help DEA keep our communities safe and healthy by participating in National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, Saturday, April 25th. Take action right in your own home by cleaning out your medicine cabinet of unneeded medications. Keep them safe, clean them out, take them back. Find a collection site near you at DEATakeback.com. Do your part to lower overdose deaths and prevent prescription drug misuse before it starts. That's DEATakeback.com.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime.
Our entry-level data plans start at just $20 a month. And for a limited time, switch and get your second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com or a store near you and get your second month free today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional details.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Thinking about retirement? Make sure a My Social Security account is a part of your plan. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can find out if you're eligible to receive benefits, compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates, view spousal benefit estimates, and more. Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Inside Sources.
So we mentioned today's Purple Up Day, and it's a day to specifically recognize and celebrate the strength of the military kid. And Governor Cox proclaimed the month of April Military Child Month and April 15th Military Child Day. So we just spoke with Jenny Taylor, and I wondered, Greg, what was one of your big takeaways from her conversation?
Just that how upbeat she is right now, how proactive she is, how much she's stayed involved in the community. I mean, she lost one of the most important things in her life. She lost her husband and the father of her 7 children, but she has not faded away. And that takes a lot of bravery for somebody to do that and to say, I mean, she's now one of the faces for the military mother and the military connected child. And so just her resiliency. I mean, that's an amazingly strong woman. I'd like to meet her someday.
We have with us clinical psychologist Dr. Tom Golightly. And Dr. Tom, we learned during a previous interview with you that you're a military child yourself. And I wondered if you could just share really briefly what your experience growing up in a military family, how that has impacted you as an adult.
Well, I think so many ways, and how you view the world, and really how you view service. I've been impacted by all of those things. There's incredible strength in these military men and women that go to serve, and especially that they're not making tons of money doing this, right? That it's a very principled, ethical sense of responsibility to the country and to society at large. And I think that has impacted me as much as anything. And also that there were hard times growing up, that there were long stretches where I didn't get to see my father. And one was scheduled, one was very much not scheduled. But you learn to adapt and you learn to be part of something bigger. And I think that influenced not only how I live my life interpersonally, but also professionally. That, how do I reach out? How do I connect to other people? How do I support them? And it really is about getting a system together to support in those times when a major piece of the system is gone for a time.
Dr. Golightly, how does a child maintain a relationship with a parent who's absent, who's gone, especially for a significant period of time, of weeks, months? How does a child continue to still see that person as daddy or mommy?
Yeah, I think technology has probably made that a little bit different. I was back in the Cold War in the 80s, and so there weren't cell phones, there wasn't an internet. So Zoom calls, FaceTimes, that wasn't much of a thing. I know that with some friends that have served in the military that they do have a little bit more face-to-face contact those ways. But I do think that is really important, is having a structure, planning a structure as much as the schedule allows, and that the technology is available to the service member, being able to engage those things. It's not perfect, it's not ideal, but I think embracing the ability to connect with people in a way that you can is very, very important. And for the service member, it benefits their wellness as well, but it benefits any children that are there. Just any consistency that you can provide, any stability that you can provide is really, really important for that child that's left back.
So we had an interesting question from one of our listeners, and they wanted to know. They were talking about the draft, and right now we still have a voluntary military service, even though we're going to do automatic enrollment. It's been the law, but what they want to know is, how does this kind of military service impact 18-year-olds? So you can voluntarily sign up, like graduate from high school, sign up and join the military. I feel like that is really young. What is your perspective as a psychologist when it comes to 18-year-olds serving in the military? And I don't mean like a policy perspective, but how do these kids handle that kind of pressure and responsibility?
No, I grew up in a different state. I was in Oklahoma when I went to high school, and there's a large Air Force presence. That's what took me to Oklahoma. And so military was a big part of I would say, the broader society of Oklahoma City. And there were several in my high school that even as early as sophomore year were planning on it. That was their plan. That was just as a lot of people would think, nope, my next step is college, or that's what I'm really thinking about. Their next step was always going to be serving in the military. And I do think that when we think of the dangers, when we think of some of how that's different, that was obviously in the early 90s. The Cold War had ended. There was relative peace throughout the world for the United States. But now it does feel a little more grave, right? Like you are signing up to enter into some pretty dangerous situations. So I do believe that the context is different. However, I think it can be a great career path. It's a great experience. We have other rites of passage, especially here in Utah, when we talk about LDS missions and different things that promote growth and development and career path. And that's just another one that might come to people's minds as they're growing up and part of what they value.
You know, one thing that's occurred to me, Dr. Golightly, in terms of my son having been in the military before he was married, was the importance of talking to his would-be spouse about the fact that, hey, this is not going to be the typical marriage. I mean, there are going to be times where we're going to be far apart. I mean, how important are those kind of conversations as people enter into relationships?
Well, I think that's something, if I can backtrack a little bit. As a child, I was not aware of this, but as I've grown older, I'm more amazed by my mother and her ability to manage that situation. Like, as an adult, as a parent of 4 adult children, I can't imagine doing what my mother had to do for very, very long stretches of time with 4 or 5 children around. And I think those conversations are very important. It is different, but I think the unsung heroes, the underappreciated strength of the military spouse is really important to highlight in months like this, in days like this, where they are really holding down a lot and doing it without a ton of support or breaks. And to me, that is incredible. And I do believe that communication and having some back and forth around those things is critical. It's not just optional. It has to happen, that this is what it's going to look like for a while. And you can't predict it all the time. I can't see it coming. It just might happen, and we've got to adapt and be flexible on the fly.
I think my mom did the same type of thing. She had routines that she did when we moved to a new place. Like, she always had to put up new wallpaper and paint, right? It was her thing to kind of make the place her or our own.
Yes.
But I would say for me as a military kid, my dad was deployed when the year that I turned 4 years old. But other than that, he wasn't deployed while I was still at home. But we moved a lot. And I think for me, that was one of the things that was maybe the biggest stressor. It was the normal thing for me, but making friends was kind of hard, right? And every time we got notice that we were going to move, I was excited as a kid, but I also was really nervous. What advice do you give to families where maybe deployment isn't on the horizon, but there's just so much change, right, that comes along with being in the military?
Well, I connect to everything you just said. I have a pit in my stomach remembering all of those times, like, all right, it's time to move, right? And so I relate. I think the biggest thing, routine is huge, right? As much as possible, having routine. I'm still very close with my siblings. We very rarely have any disagreements. We're really great. And everyone asks how we did that. And I said, well, we moved every 2 years. We were the only friends that we had. And I think that was a big thing. They're great people. I say that tongue in cheek. But I think routine is very, very, very important. I think support systems, the military support systems, the school support systems, if you find a church and a church community, or even just the community at large, going to community programs, making sure that your kids find some connection and support in those new areas. Just keep giving them more contact. I think self-care routines, physical health is really important, sleep, eating, all of that stuff. But as much predictability and stability that you can provide in a time where there isn't a lot of predictability or stability is going to be really important, which is part of what I love about the wallpaper and just trying to make things familiar.
Thanks for joining us this morning. That was clinical psychologist Dr. Tom Golightly talking to us about military children. And speaking of children, it's almost summer, and if you've got a teenager who might be looking for a job this summer, it's time to start looking around. We'll talk about what's available and how kids can get better paying jobs over the summer when we come back.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top local story this hour: 3 motorcyclists have died in Utah in just the last week. It's raising concerns for UDOT, who says it's a dangerous trend. 72 motorcyclists died last year across the state. Motorcycle crashes are extremely deadly and are 10 times more likely to end in death compared to a normal car crash. The weather is warming up, so we're only going to see more of them out on the roads. Utah has been ranked as the state with the best economic outlook in the nation for the 19th year in a row. That's according to a yearly report from the American Legislative Exchange Council. That's in spite of concerns around rising prices and criticism from state Democrats who say the report rewards Utah for cutting corporate taxes and having a low minimum wage. Utah Senate President Adams responded to those concerns today, saying,
"We have the fastest growing household income in the country. And that equates exactly to being able to buy things that are needed for families."
Adams and other Republican leaders also pointed to their efforts to lower income taxes, as well as housing and child care costs. Our top national story from ABC News. President Trump is threatening to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell again. ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers has the latest.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's term ends on May 15th. He said last month he would continue to serve after that date if his successor, Kevin Warsh, is not yet confirmed. But President Trump is once again threatening to fire Powell if he doesn't step down when his term ends. The president telling Fox News, quote, "I'll have to fire him." A president can fire a member of the Fed for cause, but Trump's attempt to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook last year is currently awaiting a decision at the Supreme Court. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow Jones is down 174 points. That's a 0.3% change. The S&P 500 is up 30 points. That's 0.5% or so. And the NASDAQ is up 232 points. That's just under 1%. Coming up, a potential freeze warning in effect. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
When the dollar's convertibility into gold ended in 1971, gold was fixed at $35 an ounce. Fast forward to today, and the U.S. dollar has lost over 85% of its purchasing power. Meanwhile, gold has increased in value by over 12,000%. Central banks are buying gold at record levels. Major firms are holding significant positions in gold. And I choose to buy gold from Birch Gold Group. Stan Bongino, and it all starts with education. Birch Gold just announced their Learn and Earn Precious Metals event. This free online event rewards you for learning the basics of investing in precious metals. Sign up to get free silver on your next purchase if you qualify. And you can get even larger incentives as you go. The more you learn, the more you can earn. But act now. This special event only runs through April 30th, so text my name Dan to the number 989898 to join Birch Gold's Learn and Earn Precious Metals event by April 30th. Text Dan to 989898 today. Message and data rates may apply.
This is Jeff Stout with Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple. Let's talk conventional versus FHA loans. Both offer cash-out refinances up to 80% loan-to-value or LTV, so which is best for you? It's kind of like Uber and Lyft. I always compare the two before booking a ride. Conventional loans don't have mortgage insurance under 80% LTV. However, the rates and costs get higher with lower credit scores, cash out, and high LTVs. FHA loans always have mortgage insurance, but the rates are lower, they don't penalize you for cash out and high LTV loans, and they allow for higher debt-to-income ratios. FHA often results in lower payment even with mortgage insurance. We can analyze your situation within minutes. Call us today. Fink and McGregor, Mortgages Made Simple, 801-264-9494. That's 264-9494. Or on the web at finkmcgregor.com. NMLS 289115.
Salt Lake City, this is your final boarding call, extended by popular demand. Titanic, the exhibition is sailing away soon. Don't miss your last chance to experience the heartbreaking and heroic stories of her passengers and crew. See the incredible artifacts before the doors close forever on April 19th at the Shops at Southtown in Sandy. Get your tickets before they're gone at thetitanicexhibition.com. That's thetitanicexhibition.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU.com. Here's Cormac Bone.
I'm not seeing any delays on I-15 between Ogden and Provo, but we do have a couple of crashes. First, northbound just after the south interchange, there's a crash blocking that right shoulder. But again, no delays behind them. And then we have a crash in Utah County. It's the off-ramp from southbound I-15 to US 6. They're blocking a center lane in that off-ramp, so causing some congestion just on that on-ramp, and you might want to be careful as you get off the freeway in Spanish Fort. But otherwise, your roadway's looking pretty good all across the Wasatch Front. I'm Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
High is 69 today. Things get cold overnight. We could see rain switch to snow tomorrow. Things get down to the 40s on Friday. Right now, though, it's 59 degrees and mostly cloudy. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, there's still a month left for school, but if your teen wants a summer job, it's time to maybe start looking around.
A lot of the students start looking for jobs right now to be ready for summertime.
Workforce Development Specialist Troy Lamb says many employers want to hire and train employees before summer hits so they're ready to work by the time school is out. And starting now gives them an advantage because those entry-level seasonal jobs will be inundated with applicants once summer does hit. And you want to set your teen up for success.
Just don't wait until June 1st or whenever school's out, because I think that they might be a little behind the curve.
If your teen needs a little help in their job search, Lamb recommends networking with family and friends. Britt Johnson, KSL News Radio.
Now, I have to say on the networking piece, first of all, is yes, we've talked about that on this show before with teens. It's still the best way to get a job. However, they can go out there and do fast food or hands-on. In fact, yesterday, riding around my neighborhood, there were a couple of teenage boys who were doing, I'm sure, a window washing service, right? Knocking on people's doors and just saying, hey, I'm here to wash your windows. So stuff like that.
Good for them.
So
I was looking last summer, Forbes actually identified 3 or 4 jobs as the highest paying jobs for teens nationally, including food service manager, carpenter, and retail supervisor, offering hourly rate of over $24. That seems like a lot of money for a kid.
Well, you can
get
see
the job.
Yes, so you can see sometimes fast food restaurants even advertising $15 to $18+ an hour, which if you're 16 years old, that's pretty good money.
Good amount of money.
So one of the things I'm interested in hearing is if any of our listeners are going to have teenagers or teenage grandchildren who are going to get summer jobs, you can call us even 575-TALK. So that's 801-575-TALK, or text us at 57500. But I'll say this, my very first not babysitting job was working at a fast food restaurant. It happened to be Burger King, and I think I made $3 an hour, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, and we're pretty happy to get it.
I know.
You know, my first summer job was at Snellgroves.
Oh.
Over here on 21st South and 9th East.
Oh, gosh.
I don't remember what I made.
Did you scoop ice cream?
Oh, yeah.
Aw.
They called
That's really fun.
They called us soda jerks.
Oh.
But it was a complimentary. It just was the word I worked there. In fact, I liked the job so much, I kept working there even when school started.
So we've had kids who have done a variety of things during the summer, and I've had some kids who didn't work, and I swear they slept the entire summer because they were so sleep deprived. I don't know what they were doing during the school year. But I also had one who mowed lawns. I had one who worked in a fast food place, and her first job there is she had to clean counters and stuff, but coming from our house where we had a whole bunch of people living there, she was like, this is so easy. And they loved her because she was such a hard worker.
So we do want to hear from you. If you're having your kids get a summer job this summer, text us at 57500. We don't have a lot of time left. Or call us at 801-575-TALK. Or just tell us what your favorite summer job was as a teen. It seemed like the easiest one that we could all get every summer was lawn care. Grab dad's mower and go door to door and see how much people will pay you to mow their lawn. And if you get enough jobs, you can actually make pretty good money.
So we heard just in that soundbite from the Utah Department of Workforce Services, they have a website. Guess how many job listings they have?
How many?
25,000.
Oh, you're kidding.
They have 25,000 job listings. So that is a way to look for jobs. Also, they said networking is probably the best way. But, I I don't know if I had a favorite, but one of the people, this is a Deseret News article, one of the people that they talked to, his name is Asher. He earned $18 an hour last summer cleaning construction sites, and he was only 16 last year.
Yeah, I mean, that's. I mean, I think my first job was probably in the $1.80 or $2.15 range. And we were happy to get it. Of course, times were different. It was like making $20 an hour today, but it was that was. Think about that. Think about making $2 an hour.
I know.
$5 an hour.
I know.
Something like that.
And we had a conversation in our family about, this is what mom and dad are going to pay for. So the other things that you're looking at, that's your own money. So you're going to have to find a way to make money. Not very many of my kids did babysitting. I think they're like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. Although they were really good at babysitting. But that was my real first job. Was taking care of other people's kids, and I think I started that when I was 11.
Yeah. We all did that, and it was a good way to make a living, and it was
not
kind
a living, but a little
to make not a living, but a good way to make a few dollars. We actually tried my parents the whole allowance thing. It was a disaster, and I never even tried that with my own kids. Like
that is interesting. We have never talked about that. We never did allowance either. We tried a little bit, and I just first of all, I couldn't make it work. Second of all, if they decided they didn't want to do their job, they would say, okay, fine, just don't pay me, right? And then basically what we decided on, and this was the de facto for almost all of our child raising years, is you live here and so you work here. That's part of being part of the family. You do have jobs, and we had a job rotation. They learned to do everything from cooking to cleaning toilets to, cleaning out the fridge, lots of stuff.
It seemed like when I was in high school, the people that got the best summer jobs were generally working in fields where you were dealing with other young people, usually of the opposite gender, because you could meet girls or guys from different schools and form relationships and friendships. And that we didn't enjoy that particularly in my job, but I was always jealous of the guys that had those kind of jobs.
We have a couple of texters. One says that they worked for Reed's Bike and Trike in West Valley City, building and repairing bikes for lower wage families. I think that's awesome.
Great job.
And then another one who said that their kids started a garbage can cleaning business, and I've paid for that. It's like, yeah, I'll clean all your garbage cans. I'm like, great, come do it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's been something where as a homeowner, I'm like, absolutely, I will pay you to do that.
Yeah, whatever you want. Like, I don't want to smell it anymore.
So
cool summer jobs.
Yeah, summer jobs. This one says, my summer job was easy as a kid. My mom had a swear job, so I just had to make her angry enough to use it. Oh, that's sneaky.
I always have young people that are working or currently in law school, and they want to do internships. They want to do even some will volunteer just to get the experience of a summer job, because you can't expect them to be working with you when school starts again. And law school is so intensive, and I guess at most every college, or especially grad school, is that way. But we love to have kids come in. The young adults who are in law school come in and work for us for a summer. That's exactly how I became a criminal defense lawyer. Is my first summer after my first year of law school. Because I went to law school to be an engineering and mining
you said
lawyer.
that. You said that.
And I went and got a summer job at a law firm that was doing big criminal defense case. I thought, this is what I want to do.
Wow, that is really interesting. That's really interesting. And so, it is the season as kids are finishing their schooling in the K through 12 level, right? Colleges are finishing up this month, but they've got about another month. But jobs, they're hiring for those jobs right now.
How many did you say? 25,000 job postings?
Yeah, on the Department of Workforce Services. Yeah. They're probably not all for teenagers, but for summer jobs. But there's lots of opportunities out there, including, as you said, internships. Well, when we come back, it's already the end of our show, so we'll have some fun facts and your closing arguments. Stay with us.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com/contests.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime.
Our entry-level data plans start at just $20 a month. And for a limited time, switch and get your second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit consumercellular.com or a store near you and get your second month free today. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional details.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
Imagine a world where you can leave the house and take your home Wi-Fi speeds with you. Well, thanks to Xfinity Mobile, it's not just fantasy. Just picture it. You're at your kid's softball practice, streaming the other game in 4K, just like that. At the airport, download a cozy family comedy in a snap. What if the places you had to be felt more like everywhere you wanted to be? That's the magic of Xfinity Mobile. Reliable Wi-Fi and 5G when you need it. Xfinity. Imagine that. Cut your mobile bill in half with 2 lines of unlimited. Visit xfinitymobile.com to learn more. Restrictions apply. Xfinity Internet required. Savings based on promotional rate for 2 lines of Xfinity Mobile Unlimited versus regular rates for 2 lines of T-Mobile Experience More. Verizon Unlimited Plus and AT&T Starter as of 2/10/26. Taxes, fees extra after promo. Regular rates apply. Cut your mobile bill in half. Visit xfinitymobile.com. Xfinity. Imagine that.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Momentum Trolley Square is a 7,600 square foot training focused gym built for bouldering, board training, weights, and cardio. It combines the energy of a modern climbing space with a clean, streamlined design. General Manager Autumn Mann joins us with more.
Momentum Trolley Square is more than a climbing gym. It's a space where movement, community, and wellness come together. Located at the heart of historic Trolley Square, our gym was created to make climbing accessible and welcoming for everyone, from first-time climbers to seasoned athletes. For just $69 a month, members have access to world-class bouldering, fitness opportunities, a wellness and rejuvenation room featuring a sauna and cold plunge, and community-driven events that bring people together. At Momentum, we believe climbing has the power to improve lives. It builds strength, confidence, resilience, and connection. We're proud to support healthy lifestyles while contributing to the local economy and creating a place where people can grow and belong. Whether it's through partnering on events with local neighbors, offering educational opportunities, or simply providing a place for people to gather and move, we're excited to be a part of the growth and future of Salt Lake City.
Through climbing, fitness, and shared experiences, Momentum Trolley Square is bringing people together and building a strong sense of community in Salt Lake City. Learn more about memberships, programs, and events at momentumclimbing.com/trolley square. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
911, tell me exactly what happened. My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
I said, Josh, where are you? You need to get home.
And her husband will never be held accountable.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
I'm Dave Cawley, host of the podcast Cold.
Then he starts making phone calls to Susan's phone.
Hello, Susan. We are on our way back.
It's the deepest of deep dives into this tragic tale of abuse.
Where was Josh when Susan disappeared?
I don't know. Of one mother's desperate attempt to escape.
This is me, covering all my bases.
Help prevent it from happening again.
Our focus has and continues to be finding Susan.
Listen and learn by following Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
And expanded Inside Sources.
So before I go to the what happened on this day, I wanted to talk about the typhoon. I think it's Sinlaku is how you say it, but it has hit Guam. Also, lots of the Pacific area, just absolutely destructive over the Marianas. But my brother lives in Guam, and so he has been texting our family thread for a couple of days saying, hey, it's the largest storm on the planet for this year, at least. It turned into a major typhoon. It has now just down to a regular one, I guess. But it had winds over 200 miles an hour, and Guam was not in the direct path. But he said he has been keeping us updated. They don't have power. They haven't had power for about a day and a half. They have a lot of flooding in their home, and their home is not like right on the beach or anything like that, but there was so much rain that they are having flooding without air conditioning because they don't have power. They're starting to get water inside their walls where they're like, it's going to mildew, and they are living in an area that's probably decently well off, right? Especially by I guess traditional standards. But he was just sharing, like, what do you do, right, when you have a storm that has wind 180 to 200 miles an hour, waves up to 15 feet tall or more, and then just dumping buckets of rain? I mean, it's kind of scary, right?
Yeah, you just hunker down and hope for the best. I mean, there's not much you can do.
Yeah, he sent a couple of pictures, right? And there's a lot of destruction just in like their yard and there's neighbor's yard and stuff, but no loss of life that he knows of in Guam yet. But I think it's a long duration thing.
Well, you were telling me in the days leading up to this that there were some neighboring islands that they expected to be completely swamped by this.
The Marianas, right? The Marianas.
Did we hear anything about?
I haven't heard about the impact there, except that they were directly in the path and they were hit really hard. So it's sometimes you see, I think, news stories and you're like, oh yeah, there's a big storm. No, like this thing is like
this
real.
This is like life-threatening.
Yeah. Oh yeah, life-threatening. So that was my news that we've been following with our family, and he hasn't been able to get very much information out. They don't have a generator, so he must have a portable battery pack because he's still using his phone.
But the worst of it's over, and you've heard from him.
The worst of it is over for them. So I'm looking at Super Typhoon is what they called it, and this is NBC. It just pounded remote U.S. islands in the Pacific Ocean. So lots of damage with trees and uprooting grass and tearing roofs off buildings, etc. So, and then of course you've got people out there saying, "Hey, let me take a picture."
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So today is April 15th. We already know it's Tax Day and Purple Up Day. And it also is McDonald's Day. So do you want to take a guess why?
Was formed on this day?
Yeah. Ray Kroc opened his first McDonald's on this day in 1955, actually, in Illinois. And so...
Did you ever see that movie, The Founder?
No.
About Ray Kroc?
No, I did not.
It was hardly the beginning of McDonald's, but, it's because the people that actually started the idea... I mean, the movie is probably a little bit slanted, but...
He stole the idea?
Yeah, right.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry.
So, yeah.
Today's McDonald's Day.
He's not made to look like a hero in that
All
movie.
right. Well, there's a lot of people who were born on this day that people will know. So on this day in 1452, Leonardo da Vinci was born. Corrie ten Boom was born on this day in 1892. And Corrie ten Boom was a Christian who ended up in a Nazi concentration camp, if you remember that story. Mm-mm. She wrote the book, The Hiding Place. And it's really a remarkable book. She actually died on her birthday, so on this day in 1983. So she lived 101 years and died on her 101st birthday. But one of the things from Corrie ten Boom about her time in the concentration camp, she and her sister ended up dying in the camp. But her sister had an outlook that Corrie was just like, this is like, I learned so much from her because her sister was thankful for the fleas in the dorms. And she was like, how could you possibly be thankful for these fleas? They're terrible. They're biting us all the time. And she said, because it keeps the guards out of here, right? And sexual assault was very common.
Oh.
And she said the fleas kept the guards out. And she just was, I think, a remarkable speaker. And she shared a story about forgiving a guard. She had been going around and doing a speaking tour about forgiveness. And then she said one time she had to really put it into practice because one of the guards from the concentration camp where she was came up and said, he didn't recognize her, but he came up and said, I was a guard there and I have, found Jesus and I want to be a Christian and will you forgive me? And he asked her point blank. And she said, I could not shake his hand but I asked God to help me, and God helped me lift my hand. And she said, as soon as I touched his hand, I was able to forgive him. And I'm like, that story is like,
my word.
Wow, right?
For
exactly.
both of their perspectives.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, some other on this day. In 1912, the Titanic sank. So we said yesterday it hit the iceberg about 11:30 at night, and it sank on the 15th of April.
The incredible unsinkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then I think this is interesting because it was watching the movie. I think the whole movie was called The Killing Fields, but that was the Cambodian genocide, and that was my first exposure to a genocide story, and that would have been when I was a teenager, maybe 18, 19 years old.
Did you watch that movie?
I did watch that movie, and
It
I
was
was
horrible.
like, it was horrible, and I remember it being like, wow, this is really terrible. And then I learned a lot more. But in 1998, Pol Pot, who was the architect of those killing fields, he died at age 72, apparently of natural causes while serving a life sentence. He was arrested, and his own Khmer Rouge actually put him in prison. And this is about maybe 15-ish years after the genocide ended. But just a really horrible story.
That was one of those movies that the whole time I'm watching it, I'm thinking, I cannot continue to watch this. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it was well done, and I'm not saying it was a terribly made movie. It was just one of those movies that I almost walked out of it.
So interesting to talk about genocide. We're actually going to talk about genocide tomorrow, and we're going to have a whole special segment on genocide. And I hope our listeners tune in because it's a really important conversation. And then one final one. It was on this day in 2013 that the Boston Marathon bombing happened. 3 people died. A bunch of people were injured.
Yeah, that was another terrible thing. Because you think about, I've run a marathon before, and just the joy and it was painful. But, just to think about doing something like that where you're doing everything you can to further yourself and to reach goals and to do certain things. And murder's horrible no matter what's going on. But I don't know, you just think about situations where a person is at the highlight of their, whatever they're feeling, and something like that occurs. It's just tough.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to talk about Purple Up Day, and I appreciate you and my own wife, Rebecca, who are children of military personnel. And, of course, today's Purple Up Day, April 15th, dedicated to wear purple to show support and appreciation for military children, recognizing their strength and sacrifice. It's purple because that's sort of the conglomeration of the colors for our military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. And we wear it to recognize that. So I'd never heard of Purple Up Day.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you.
It's a newish thing.
And I was so glad for Jenny Taylor to say, hey, I'm glad you guys are talking about this. And I was so glad for Dr. Golightly to come in and say, here's what happened with kids. Well, I've got 4 grandkids. And their dad is in the military, and he's in the Air Force, and he could be deployed tomorrow. And he has been deployed. Mm-hmm. He has been to Afghanistan. He has been to South Korea. He's been in places and may very well again, just based on what we're watching on TV right now. Who knows where he's going to be, because he's a doctor and they need doctors. I'm not saying that that's if you're a pilot or if you're doing infantry or something like that, maybe there's a far greater chance of that. But I'm glad we celebrate that. And it's sort of a unique niche of people that we're honoring, but they're people who absolutely should be honored, because you and Rebecca, my wife, have told me the same stories that break my heart about forming friends and relationships and moving. And it's hard. I went to the same grade school, junior high, and high school as all my neighbor kids. We were in the same neighborhood. We still see each other. But you guys didn't have that opportunity. And so I don't know how that even affects your growing up, not being able to form bonds and relationships. Anyway,
well, we formed them, but I only have one friend that I even know from before I turned 18 or 19. Only one that I still remember.
And that's hard to even fathom. Go to my high school reunion and I know everybody. Anyway, enough of that, because it's breaking my heart to talk to everybody about that, and I'm glad that we did celebrate that. When we come back, Utah has been ranked the best state for economic outlook. We'll turn things over to Midday with Maria Shileos to tell us more about that and why. Stay here right with us on KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios.